Girl,
You?
hey.
Oh, I'm so not good at this.
You'll
Cheese and
get it.
rice.
I'm still not good at it either. So,
Come on now.
so I don't do it enough.
Well, we're gonna wait a few minutes anyway. Wait, was somebody else supposed to be in the box?
Yeah,
Heinzie, right?
Lindsay was coming, and I'm not sure.
Oh, Velma's here. I don't know if she wants to get up yet, though.
I'm
Yeah,
here just
she
I'm just here doing
Welcome.
some box squatting, if that's all right.
I mean, for you, yeah.
You like that, huh?
do.
Uh, I was like, no box squatting, respectfully.
Right? That's why I was like, I'm here to box squat right here. That's what I'm doing.
Hey, leopard. Oh, boy.
Well, I was wrong about TikTok, guys. It's staying.
For another
Yeah,
75 days.
I know. I don't know how many more 75 days he can do, but fuck,
he's
I
gonna
don't
man.
know either.
he's gonna do
I don't know either.
he's gonna do another 3.5 years of 75 days.
For real.
Hey,
I'm like,
Shannon.
fuck. I don't know how many you can do, but I'm like, you're playing with our emotions here and a lot of our memories, motherfucker.
Hmm.
Hey, Jenny. Oh, 867. You could come up if you want to.
Yeah, I figured she'd probably want to come up.
Yeah.
Wonder
Yeah,
what Megan was doing
Gina.
tonight.
I think that's what it means.
Yeah, I haven't seen her all day.
She might be doing something with Shay tonight. I don't
Who?
know. Megan.
Megan.
Oh,
Yeah, right, Sarah? I feel like it's a it's tick toxic.
I know, right, Sarah? I don't know if we broke up, if we're together, or what. I don't know.
There she is. So, hey, girl.
Hey, hey, hey.
So, for everybody in the chat, it's Heinzie's birthday tomorrow, but we planned this for tonight in case TikTok wasn't here. So,
But we're here.
it's her birthday tonight, as far as we're concerned.
That's right.
I
Right,
mean,
and I
let's
think like
face
I
it.
confused a lot of people because I was like, yes, it's my birthday. You know what I mean? But like we didn't know if we were gonna have TikTok or not or
Well,
the extension. So it's like,
I
what
mean,
was that?
let's face it. Your birthday is never just a day, right?
That's fair.
There's
Yeah.
fireworks in this?
That was
Oh, here he
fireworks. Did you
is.
see
There
that?
he is.
Yeah.
It was so pretty. Oh my gosh, you guys stop.
London in the house.
Can
Hey,
you find it
London.
one more? One more?
Hey,
Hey,
London.
London.
One fire.
Heidi's like,
What's the
nope.
fire trucks? Who's the fire trucks? Is that
Oh,
you,
that's
Kirby?
me. I live in the hood. Yeah, you know that.
He said I live in the hood.
Lord.
It's a slow night here.
Hey, buddy.
It's
I know.
early. It's
It is
early.
early. I like early, though.
So, yeah. So we're celebrating Heinz's birthday. Yes, I am in my office. Um, and what Heinze wanted to do for her birthday was a live about Idaho, but
Yes.
more or less, I'm really bad at explaining this. I hope it comes out right. We wanted to focus more on how shall I say the suspect, I guess,
Yes.
rather
Yes.
than the timelines and all of that. So, um, I'm basically just here giving everybody a space because I suck at this.
No, you're doing great. I
So
don't know. Where do you want to start? Um,
I don't know.
Heinzie, where do you want to start, birthday girl?
You know, I'm not gonna lie. I really want to hear about some of the stuff that you've been looking to. If you don't mind me putting you on the spot right now, like with some of the stuff from his past that we've been hearing about, and some
Yeah.
of that stuff. I think it would be great to dive into that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's really just let me pull my stuff up real quick. I don't know, I just got curious and I was like, what about his past and his education and I think the latest thing too is I kind of got into the phone stuff with the purchase of the new phone that we talked about. Um, but hang on a second. Let's see.
Did we find out did he purchase a new phone or did he trade in? Did we find that out?
We didn't find that out. So I think that
Okay.
was the question that we had. So he purchased, second, got all this stuff. Hang on. I'm not the best organized person. Let's see.
And shout
See
out
if
to
that's
Gia for being in the box.
yeah, I
Oh, girl.
know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right,
All
like
right.
it's so wild to me. I know, like it's my birthday or whatever, and like I never wanted to be like this huge thing, but it's so cool for like all of you to like come together and not only do this, but Gia to get up in a box
I
tonight.
know.
I don't do this for anyone.
I
That is some
I
kind of
feel
special.
so
Yeah.
loved right now.
Wait,
I feel so loved right now.
we need to know, Heinzie. We need to know.
Yes.
Are you using your tripod?
Not yet. I
Oh,
have it
Not
set up
yet.
in front of the computer, ready to go.
okay.
It is ready. I'm still hanging out with Bucket Boy here because we got a little bit before bedtime, but
Right.
it is stacked, ready. I am so excited.
I bet. I
No,
Oh,
bet.
I can't wait for you to start using it too. Okay,
Yeah.
so according to the probable cause, the PCA, he purchased a new phone in June 23rd of 2022. So the reason I'm going to talk about this first because it kind of goes into just where my mind was going with his education and how far back that goes and stuff like that. But it was purchased in June of 2022. And the original phone ending in 8458, it was first detected near the King Road house on June the 21st, 2022. So he didn't take up residency until August when he started at WSU. And I found this interesting that the old one, was detected in June. Then he purchased the new one on June the 23rd. So June the 21st, the old one was detected on King Road. And then 2 days later, he purchased the new phone. So he graduated in June of 2022 from DeSales in PA, right? Then he comes to Washington, WSU, and he starts in August of 2022. That's 2 months. So obviously, I think that there probably was some visitation. Starting here and going backwards, and I hope that's okay with you guys. And
That's
again, this
fine.
is just how my brain works, and then we can talk about it. And y'all let me know what you think and all
I'm
your ideas.
following. I'm following you.
Okay. So he has the old phone, he purchases the new phone, he graduates Pennsylvania, he starts in Washington. The mask was purchased in January of 2022. The K bar, the sheath, and the sharpener in March of 2022. So, and Alyssa is the one that I think brought this up the other day, and I think it's a very interesting and I would love to know how often he visited before he made that move because it's a new college across the country, right? So you would think that he would probably visit more than once or twice.
Right.
But then the education just goes back to him graduating for his bachelor's in psychology in 2020. And then he goes into criminal justice with the master's and graduates in June of 2022. And that's when he goes to WSU to start his PhD in criminology.
Okay.
Let me get back to some other notes.
Heather says college apartment leases start in June. They run from June through May.
June through May.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. I just wonder, did he like, how long did he know that he was going to go to WSU for a PhD program, right?
Right.
I don't know that he just decided this in June and then went on in August, and with that purchase being just 3 months before, I wonder if we're going to see any more about that and how often. I know it goes back to June, but there's 68 terabytes. Like, I wonder if we're going to see something
Right.
earlier than June that might. I don't think maybe he did in January. I think that, it's cold, it's January. I can see, and I do a lot. I align with the mask, okay? But
Right.
it's convenient for everything else and all the things that, we know now, in addition to the K bar and all of those things. So I don't know that he visited in January, but I do wonder if it was just before March or between March and June.
Right.
And I think that he'd been planning this kind of thing for a while. I just think that in those months before June, maybe that window of 3 to 4 months is when he made his decision and chose Moscow and then chose his and
Right.
also my other thought was, what if during this time he's visiting, he's getting, looking at the school, getting ready to move, he goes to Moscow and he goes to the Mad Greek. Okay, we've heard about the visual snow, and there's been, talk about his diet and things like that because of that. And I'm like, well, I mean, is that where he first set his sights? This is just me talking, just my
Right.
thoughts or
Right.
whatever. Um, let's see. So he developed the interest in criminal justice and psychology while he was in high school, from what I have read. In high school, not at I am the worst, y'all, and so unorganized. Y'all just bear with me.
It's okay. Well, I'm following, believe it or not.
Y'all pipe in anytime you want. I'm just talking.
He purchased that, like the K bar and all that stuff, before going to Idaho, though, correct? In Pennsylvania?
Yeah, it was in
Yes.
March. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yes, he did. So I think what I'm wondering, and what my question is about, that he purchased it in March beforehand, but we know that he visited in June because we know the first phone picked up there in June. Why did he get rid of that first phone? Like, did he trade it in? What happened to
Right.
it? Was that a way to evade? Y'all, these are just things I think about. How often did he visit WSU before he decided and chose the school and moved there? Are we going to see more things come out where we see a pattern there, earlier than June?
He
Does that make
also
sense?
had that interview with Pullman Police in April.
Hmm.
So that's between March
Oh,
and
did
June.
he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know
Oh.
if the interview was in person or like, I would assume it is, but it says it
Yeah.
was the interview with Pullman.
Yeah.
To like your question about the phone, I'm almost thinking like, was that when he got off of his parents' plan and then moved on to something of his own plan, which would make sense for like the change of number?
Maybe. Well, I don't know. I mean, I would think that you can keep your phone number. I mean, I've had the same number for years and I've switched services altogether.
Yeah, me too. I was about to say I've had the
So
same
I
number
don't,
since I was 16. So
yeah, I've had mine for a long, 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 long time. Long time.
about to be 40. Okay.
The new 20.
Hmm.
So he graduated from Pleasant Valley High School in 2013. Um, he was reportedly quiet and struggled with social interactions way back then. This is just things that I've noted down. Um, but he did express interest in the Army, and it wasn't until he went to the technical school that he was in a program to help them get prepared for like a field in law enforcement, and he got kicked out of that because of complaints from females.
Oh wow. And what school was that?
That
It
was
was it was Monroe.
that Monroe Technical School.
Oh, it was okay.
Yes,
So it was like a vocation,
it
like a
was like
vocational
a. I
school.
think it's a secondary.
Is Gia like really low for anybody or is it just me?
No, she is. It's not just you.
She
I can
just
hear her,
got
but
very
not well.
low. Yeah.
Or it wasn't my end.
I'm gonna put
Yeah.
my I'll put my mic on.
Oh,
Oh yeah. There
that's
Oh,
you
good
there
right
you go.
there.
yeah.
That's better.
Yeah, way better.
I think that was part of her plan. She's like, I'm gonna go up, but I'm just gonna talk so nobody hears me.
Right?
Hmm.
I
Is
don't
it
know, guys.
better?
It's not buffering over here. I think
Yeah. Anybody that's getting that, I had last night, it kept doing that. If you go out and come back in, it should help. But I think there's something wrong with TikTok. Like it's been doing that all day. Every live I saw yesterday was
yeah.
continuously buffing. So
Oh
if you go
wow.
out and come in, it may help.
That too yesterday, and all I could think was, I remember the last time TikTok was gonna go away. It was acting up
It was
the last
kind of wonky.
few
Yeah.
days. Yep. Yep.
I wonder if they were kind of preparing and then he came out with that today and was like, never mind, 75 more days. I don't know, but that's kind of pretty much what I've been looking into. Just because I got curious and I wanted to know, and then the phone got me thinking, the phones and that kind of stuff. I'm just looking more at like what might we see more come out, and we may not. I mean, there might be nothing to what I'm saying, it might, but these are the things that I think about when I'm looking at stuff like this, and I just was like, wouldn't it be interesting if we find out that, you know
Right.
and the education, I don't know, I feel like this is something that maybe he started to think about more heavily and as he got older, and wanted to do it and was going to try to get away with it.
Right. Happy birthday, cheese and rice.
What y'all want to
Yeah.
talk about next? Y'all still want to talk about that, or
I want to talk about I because I didn't get to read a lot of what I've seen, but I want to know more about like his autism. Like what I don't know how to
yeah,
ask it.
I might let Hansi do more on that, because I was looking a lot into, because I know that's been a topic,
Yeah.
but I don't know much about like the diagnosis as far as what Ann Taylor is saying that he has had. And then, I looked up all that stuff today. We can talk about that too once we, if we get there. But I don't know. I mean, is he, I don't know.
Sorry, here I was talking and I was muted. So I have at least a couple of the documents pulled up here. I have the motion to strike from defense. I also have the state's response. But I know that there was another one as well that I'm just peeking at, trying to find here.
Mhm.
And I just want to make a disclaimer here so nothing gets twisted. We're not here to attack anybody for having, I'm so sorry, for having autism, for being on the spectrum, for not being on the spectrum, anything along those lines. We are specifically looking at these documents in our interpretation of what they're saying. So I know
Right.
it's been misconstrued here in the past of us talking about it as us trying to paint it in a negative light or judging him solely based on this, when we're basing this on what he's charged for, not for what he is diagnosed with. Just to make
Right.
that
And like
clear.
for me personally, like I just want to learn about it, honestly.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
know?
what he's being charged with, and why is that now being brought up? You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
I
because
don't know.
like M was stating that this should have been put into motion a long ago, not after the deadline for it. So that in itself makes it semi fishy. Not for, again, not for what he has, but just the timing of it. Like, why was this not brought up so long ago?
Right.
Right.
I'm not
Like
seeing
I
this.
would think if it was I hope my words come out right. I would think if it was that much of a factor, it would have been one of the first things that were brought up.
Right,
Mhm.
right, exactly. All right, let's get to the Josie. So essentially, right in the beginning of their motion to strike the DP based on this diagnosis, they're saying like, well, we understand that this is past the deadline. Well, if it's past the deadline, like, why wasn't this put in before the deadline?
Mhm.
Right.
Like, it says Mr. Kohberger is aware of the deadline previously imposed by the court's scheduling order. Okay, well, why is this coming in after that then? That's what doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I agree. I would think that would be one of the first things that would be brought up. I mean, but that's just my opinion, you know?
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm just gonna read this and then maybe we can discuss it here. Let me find my place.
Okay.
Oh no, I just lost it.
Mommy, are you in there? Everyone's up there?
For those of you that don't know, he watches Lilo and Stitch way too much.
He's saying hello, hello.
Maybe so, Nikki. Maybe they did just do this kind of testing. But here's my question to that though. Here's a so but what would prompt but what would prompt if he's innocent and she's defending her client because he's innocent, right? what would prompt them to be like, he's au- so he needs to be tested for autism? I don't know. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm
Why,
just,
why now?
yeah, that's why I was saying maybe that was because of recent testing taking place,
Mm-hmm.
because maybe there was something that indicated from a while ago, like when he was
Maybe,
younger or something, there was something
maybe.
little. So she was like, well, maybe we should put you through like another set of testings and stuff to see kind of where you are now, if you never got help again after that, or maybe he didn't
Right.
get any type of help when he
Yeah.
was younger or testing or anything like that. And maybe he said something to her like, oh, I think maybe I have like this, and this because of all of these things that take place or whatever. And she was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, let's get you checked for that or whatever. And then it comes back. But like I said yesterday, I think that's a problem too, because if there isn't anything on record from prior and it's only after this schmurders took place, it's kind of a big deal, because it's kind of like you may be just trying to say certain things or bring out this
Mm-hmm.
certain stuff with no background to it, right? And I'm not saying like, oh my God, they're all lying and like, oh, he doesn't have this or that. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just giving options to basically what we have in documents that I can kind of float my head somewhere else. You know what I mean? I'm not
Sure.
like
Yeah.
saying anything negative or nothing. I'm just saying like that's what I kind of feel, since it's just getting brought up and it wasn't something in the very beginning. It's like, to me, it wasn't a problem in the beginning, right? That wasn't something anybody was looking at, including Ann Taylor, because it wasn't dropped then. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nikki, you've gone over, I at least I believe I remember you going over Idaho's kind of. You sure did, buddy. Good job. You kind of you kind of went over Idaho's code as well as far as it goes for using this in cases like that. Could you touch on that a little bit?
yeah, like some from what I've understood is they're not allowed to like really use any type of, like, if he was trying to, and I don't think he is, because I haven't seen anything in the document, so I'm going to clarify that. But if he was trying to claim some type of like insanity stuff, or that he's so out of certain things or has these big issues that could have caused him to not know what he was doing, or like normally I believe, and I think Sarah, if you're still in here because you're in Idaho, and I believe M and them know as well, it's something that you're not really able to use. So I think, again, when the state's coming back, they're also stating like, well, this is not something that's, typically put in. The juries usually don't view that kind of stuff in certain states, right? So I don't know if there's, because if you guys go to the Idaho codes and you look up all of these codes that are in these documents, there are several other codes, and A and B and C and D and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 that go with it. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if there's another code that can be brought in and it can oversee that. But from what I know, you're not allowed to use that type of stuff in a trial in Idaho.
Yeah. Well, because they don't factor in, um,
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
That's kind of how I understand it too, is the only thing that technically qualifies would be autism, but that there are they're looking at the spectrum, right? So someone who is a level 1 doesn't qualify, whereas a person of level 3 that doesn't have, the speaking abilities or the understanding and all of these things would qualify to then get this off of the table.
Right.
Yeah, I just found it says 1982 Idaho abolished the insanity defense. Wait, I read that all wrong. This review of Idaho's 1982 law abolishing the insanity defense considers the law's content, reasons for its enactment and the likelihood of its being found unconstitutional. The law prohibits any consideration of a defendant's insanity in a criminal trial. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
It says Kansas, Montana, Idaho, and Utah all have no insanity defense.
Mhm.
Sorry, guys. I'm still reading through, just making sure I'm getting
No,
everything.
we know, Joy, that he's not using it as insanity. We're just talking.
Dangerous monster truck.
My point is that of all 50 states, they do particularly have pretty strict standards for their rulings on stuff like this. And yes, he's not trying to use this as a defense. He is trying to use this as to strike the death penalty. And the state is arguing that he is not qualified as he is surpassing the ailments that would qualify him. Like
Right.
being a level 3 compared to being a level 1, they are substantially different as far as how it presents, how it affects daily living, and all of these things. So that's just kind of why I asked her to bring it up a little bit, because
No, I'm glad you did.
yeah, I know that she's a little bit more versed on a lot of these codes than I am per se. I have an understanding, obviously, but I'm not. I'm definitely not an expert.
But you are the birthday girl.
Right.
For anybody in the comments that missed it,
Hey, Jenny.
it is Heinz's birthday. So, okay, carry on.
Birthday girl, birthday girl.
Had to plug
I
that.
don't know,
Sorry.
guys. I sure do hope they have the right person. I think they do. Right now, I think they do.
I do too. And I would hope that they did, considering they're going for the death penalty and the FBI,
All
and
right.
state police, and Moscow police, and everything else was involved. That's a lot of different agencies to be making such a big mistake.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't just, Moscow, it's and their department. This is like, 60 FBI agents. And, I know that there's been talk about corruption and all this stuff, but I mean, that's a lot of law enforcement in different avenues to cover up what in 60 different places. What do you mean? I just, I think that they've done their due diligence, and I really am hoping that they have. I mean, because if listen, can you imagine if not, y'all? Ooh,
I can't even imagine.
I mean, I can no, I can't either.
So we're gonna have a little bit of background noise here. Y'all know Bucket Boy is still wide awake. But this part I wanted to read here, which is part of the state's response to the motion to strike the DP. So this, what I'm looking at specifically, for anybody who wants to follow along, it's page 8, the very bottom the very bottom paragraph is where I'm starting. It says, nor do the specific factors discussed in Atkins support defendant's argument. Atkins explained the intellectually disabled were less morally culpable because of cognitive and behavioral impairments, including, the diminished ability to understand and process information, to learn from experience, to engage in logical reasoning, or to control impulses. Defendant's ASD does not result in cognitive impairments. His diagnosis with autism spectrum disorder, level 1, without accompanying info from the defense's motion. His type of ASD is characterized by severe and sustained impairments in social interaction, but not by cognitive ability. And then they go on to say that his examination revealed no evidence of formal thought disorder or thought disorganization, and no evidence of difficulty understanding the examiner. While defendant's ASD may cause behavioral impairments such as impulsive tendency, nothing in his reports suggests such impulsive tendency manifests through physical aggression or that his lack of impulse control had any connection to the crimes in which he is charged. And I think that's a pretty powerful statement right there, is because in the defense's motion, they're, in my opinion, kind of overplaying the severity of what he is diagnosed with. So the state is coming back and saying, no, we in fact read his examination and it's the complete opposite of what you're saying. While he does have some impairments, it is not along the lines of which you're speaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I will. Thanks.
Joy, I'd love for you to touch on that. She said,
Joy's awesome, by the way.
I feel strongly that the state is being shady, but I do think he did it. But the way they did things could ruin a conviction. That's just my illegal opinion. I'd love to hear more, in all honesty. I'm obviously not a lawyer. I just read a lot of these documents and then I explain how I interpret them. So if you are interpreting it a different way, absolutely, by all means, I want to hear it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'd like to hear it too.
Yeah.
And yeah, her thoughts and why she thinks they're being shady and what those points are. And yeah.
Yes, Joy, please come up.
Absolutely. Yeah, please do. Because like how I'm interpreting it, it seems almost kind of the opposite of what you're saying. Is I'm interpreting it as it seems like the defense is being kind of shady. So I'm
I think
Yeah, me
I think
too.
they're both being shady to and
That's
not
also fair.
like back and forth and not
That's also fair,
knowing
yeah.
what's going on, scrambling, fucking everything.
I'm gonna
Joy.
mute quick just because of background.
Hi. So if you guys
Me too.
hear
Hi.
background sounds too, just my cats are trying to get in here, but they're not coming in here. So
Joy's always
Please
got
tell them I
something
say
going on in the background.
okay, so at first, I guess I'll just say as a caveat that I do think that he did play a part in it. I don't know exactly what part, but I definitely think that he is guilty to some extent, just as a caveat. So reading the legal documents, there's a lot of things that the state did and are continuing to do that are extremely shady, and I'll name a couple. So first of all, which we're gonna do a live with Christina, and I'm gonna go into more detail about it. But the way that they use the IGG, and then the way that they're now agreeing with the defense that, okay, so they did an in-camera hearing. You guys know what that is, right?
You mean the opposite of the closed hearing?
So an in-camera hearing is when it's just one side of the aisle with the judge in chambers and it's videotaped. And then once the judge makes a decision on that information, then either that videotape will be handed over to the other side or it won't.
Okay.
So they
Interesting.
did an in-camera
Okay.
hearing pertaining to the IGG information and whether or not the state had to hand over the IGG information to the defense. And the judge ruled that the IGG was irrelevant because the
Right.
state isn't using it in their case in chief.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So and a lot of people are talking, like, people mentioned the Franks hearing and things of that nature. The reason why they were essentially stopped in their tracks is because the steps that you have to show in order to show that there was a violation and so on and so forth. One of the factors that has to be present is that the evidence has to be favorable for the defense, and they can't get over that hurdle because the judge has ruled that it's irrelevant.
Well, because they're not using it, so it is irrelevant.
It is, but it stops them from saying that, from arguing the Franks part. So they can't even make the argument, because part of that argument has to show that it would be beneficial to the defense, and they can't even show that because the judge made a ruling on that evidence prior to the Franks hearing, if that makes sense. So it
It does, but
stops.
does the judge, I mean, wouldn't that kind of say that the judge doesn't think that it's going to benefit
So
the defense?
no,
I don't
Right.
know.
so that's not, so when he says it's not, when he says it's irrelevant, it doesn't mean that the information wouldn't show that he's guilty or not guilty. It's just based on the fact that they're not using it, so therefore it's not relevant. It doesn't mean that what it is that they have, that they're withholding, wouldn't benefit the defense, if that makes sense.
But don't we
Yeah.
already know the results of the IgG? Like, he's just not using it.
No, we don't. We don't have any of that information because we have pieces of it, but the bulk of it it will never be released unless, I guess, this goes through and it gets appealed, and then the next judge decides that it has to be released. That's why it was an in-camera hearing. So the only people that have that information is the judge and the prosecution. That is it.
Well, by information, you mean the relatives of how they got there. That obviously no one
No.
knows.
Right.
But
Like the family tree.
But the
Nope.
fact that the DNA linked to Kohberger, we all know is a fact. Like, that
So,
was the result.
the things after the fact, like after that, there was further testing that was done that they claimed that they didn't have, that then they finally admitted that they did have. And then there was a whole document. I don't remember what document it is, but essentially they admitted that they withheld exculpatory information. And then it came down to analysis of whether it was in bad faith or not. And the judge has not ruled on that yet. But the state is arguing that they didn't act in bad faith, and the defense is saying that they did act in bad. There's a whole issue relating to all of that, and not only that, but in trial, this is where I was basically getting at as to why I have an issue with the IgG. But it's a lot deeper. But the real issue or the shadiness is that they're not even mentioning IgG at all during trial.
Right.
The only thing that's going to be said is we received a tip and the tip led us to Brian Kohberger. That is it. There's nothing else further that is going to be mentioned about that. And that, to me, is a huge cause of concern because they may have, right, been able to get to Brian at some point or another. However, then there's other issues with that too, right? The evidence that they're leading on as far as the cell tower and so on and so forth, that the state, or not the state, their person, I'll get into that in a second, but basically they may or may not have ever gotten to Brian without that information. And to not hand that information over to show, because there's a lot of things that could be in that, like, what was the percentage that it was his? What is the percentage that it came back as somebody else? Because it's not definitive, right? Because there were other DNA on that sheath that they're not talking about and they're not handing over. There was B and D, both males.
No, that was not on the sheath.
Not
That
on
was
the sheet.
on a handrail.
Yeah, no.
From the
The
first
sheath
to
is a
second
single
floor,
source.
and that was on a glove outside.
So
The sheath is single source. That means single person. There's not, at
so,
least on the snap, the button snap itself. There's no
Yes.
other DNA on the button snap.
but it was also a mixture. It wasn't just like it had multiple other, because I believe that there was also Maddie's was on it as well that they excluded.
They
Obviously.
did a STR profile for the single
Yes.
source sheath.
Okay, so that's why I'm saying is what the shady. So if you go in and look at the experts that they're countering with, it will break all that down. I don't have that document in front of me to read it specifically, but if you read it, you'll see what I'm saying. in regards to that they're alluding, the defense is alluding that even though they're saying it's single source, it was a mixture. And they're not privy to any of that information because it was ruled as irrelevant because they're not using it. So they can't even get their hands on it to analyze it with their own experts. And that's that's why Becca Barlow came on as as a new attorney, because that's her area of expertise, is to try to
And you're
fight
not
all that.
talking about the fingernails. You're talking
No,
about
no.
okay.
So there's a document that was done recently. Oh my God, where they break it down, indicating not the fingerprint. I mean, sorry, not the finger under the fingernails. But the other really, so even if you disregard that, because there is a lot of confusion in relation to that, especially because the way that those documents are written, this cell phone data issue is huge, in my opinion, as far as shadiness goes, because their expert relied on 5% of the data of his pings. And not only that, but of that 5%, in their affidavit that they talk about, there's at least one point where they say it pinged at the Moscow Tower, but they don't think that he was there. So of the 5%, some of that still doesn't fit their storyline.
And you're talking about from the PCA when it says that in the PCA?
It says that in the PCA, and then there's, of the new documents, the defense's expert, I think it's S.Y. Ray.
Right, but I think that well, and let me back up for a second. So
That's not
in the
right.
PCA, I think that just the way I misinterpreted that was it was the tower that it was available for it to ping on. Like it's gonna bounce off the closest tower that it's at, right?
So the
Are you
issue,
following?
yes, but the issue with that
Okay.
is that's not, so the data that they relied on, the person that wrote that part of the PCA
Mhm.
is who their expert is, okay? The state's expert. It's not the actual data. It's not the actual data taken directly from
Right.
AT&T. It's the data that he took, then he put into his system, then did a drive test and came up with his own independent data. That's the data that you're seeing in the PCA, not the actual AT&T data. They're different.
Right. Right.
That's an issue to me. Because if he's even if he quote unquote shut his phone off, which they're arguing that is not the case, that the state actually, and it's in the state's, one of the state's documents, and they say something along the lines of, we're not analyzing that data because it's cumbersome to the state, something along those lines. But those 7 minutes, the defense is saying is exculpatory, and that it was pinging to the towers. They're just ignoring it essentially because it doesn't fit their timeline. And for them to say that it's exculpatory, plus their expert going after, essentially he went after the state and the judge for the level of just egregiousness by them, especially with the cell phone tower. That there, it doesn't make sense. If his phone was pinging and they can track him from going from WSU all the way to their location or nearby, right? Because they're claiming that he shut his phone off. They should be able to use 100% of that data, not 5%. And it's not even 5% of the real data. It's 5% of the real data that was then put into a system, interpreted, and then created new data points. I have an issue with that. Like as an attorney, that's not, that doesn't look good.
Hmm.
Okay, so I think I found where you were talking about the mixture. Okay, does Gary Shuttler sound familiar? It would be the defendant's expert, Gary Shuttler, PhD.
I'm not sure, but if you read it, it should ring a bell.
So I've been reading this as you've been talking, not trying to be rude. I just was trying to find exactly where you're talking. And in this specific document, which is the order, defendant's motion to suppress the genetic information from 2/19/25, this is talking about, so law enforcement decided to conduct a warrantless trash pull from Kohberger, blah, 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 blah. A DNA profile developed from one article of trash was determined to be from a biological father of the source of Q1.1, which is the sheath. Another article of trash revealed a mixture of female and male DNA. According to the defendant's expert, Gary Shuttler, PhD, the male DNA from the mixture was consistent with Q1.1 profile.
Which was the father.
Hold on. So the Q1.1 is the sheath.
Sheath.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're saying that they have one piece of trash that came back strictly to the father, and they have another piece of trash that came back as a mixture of male and female DNA. Another piece of trash that came back as a mixture of male and female DNA.
Yeah,
And their expert is stating that the male DNA from that mixture was consistent with the Q1.1 profile, which is the sheath profile. So nowhere in there.
It's not that document. So part of it, I could pull it and send it to Kirby, and Kirby can send it to you guys. And it was also in the minutes of the Frank's hearing, where she was trying her best, but not doing such a wonderful job at staying focused. But it's not a point blank statement. It's very scattered and put together, but I can pull it and send it to her and show you as to why that's what it is. That's what it seems as though they're saying. And it was, part of it was from when Barlow came into the scene.
So this was specifically the hearing, like the January 23rd hearing?
The memorandum and
there's it like hearing minutes. It's like I think it's over 100 pages long, I believe. But I could be wrong about that. But I will, like, I can pull it and show you exactly where it is that I'm pulling the information from. And I have a prediction of sorts that I think Barlow is going to do, because she essentially, in the end, they stopped fighting about the IgG.
Well, because they're not using it. So
yes, and she agreed to that, and also asked for the witnesses to make sure that they're going to be held to that, which means that that's what if you read the wording of her last motion in regards
they're
to
not
it,
using the IgG in there, and they're going to be held to that. Is that what you're saying?
yes, but the way that Barlow wrote the legal document in lawyer words, she was happy with that decision. That's what she was looking for. That's what she wanted, was just for it to not be mentioned. And then basically what I did was I went in and I looked at the percentages and so on and so forth, and what it corresponds to and whatever. But that's a pretty long conversation that of what I think she's going to do and why Barlow was brought onto the team, as far as basically pulling that apart, because the other main part of it, like I said before, is the cell towers. But there's a lot of other things that they've done. They've even flat out said in a couple of documents that some of the things that the defense has argued as far as them basically being shady, they've admitted that they are. And then when they're caught, they hand over the things that they're claiming they didn't hand over, and then are asking the court to hold that they didn't they didn't do anything in bad faith, because once they realized they had it, they handed it over on more than one
Yes.
occasion.
Right, but also on more than one occasion, they have stated that they didn't have it, but they're still working on getting stuff. So as soon as they have it, they'll turn it over.
Right. And I
No, I'm
think
not talking about that.
haven't they even sent things that she said she didn't get and she did actually
No,
get?
I'm not even.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure, but I'm not talking about. That's not what I was
Okay.
mentioning. I'm only talking about the things specifically that.
To the IGG.
One of them was in relation to the IGG, and the other one is in relation to the cell phone tower data. They still
Okay.
have not handed that. Not even the data. They have the data, but they lied about having the data at the point that they had it. The defense's expert was privy to that they had it for whatever reason. I'm assuming, this is an assumption, that he was part of the team that was brought on originally, so he was privy to certain things and then either removed him. I'm assuming removed himself, because if he got removed, I don't think he would be able to be an expert for the other side. And then not only that, but the analysis of their expert for the state, his analysis of that 5% data, he will not hand over.
Okay, so the only thing that I know of as far as the phone records that they're stating is not being turned over and they have it is the timing advance records. Is that what you're referencing here?
Nope. No. In that document,
Talking about the 95% of it that didn't get
no,
turned in.
no, they
I don't know.
I'm lost.
Right.
Me
Same.
too.
I've read all of these documents and I have no idea where you're getting this stuff from, to be quite, and I'm not trying to be mean. I'm lost. I don't know where to look to even try to explain, my understanding of something. The only thing I know of is the timing advance records, which is what they're going back and forth with lately. So again, I'm not trying to come down on you. I'm sorry if I sounded rude. I did chuckle a little bit because I'm nervous. Okay, I apologize. Is there any way that maybe you can find the documents that you're pertaining to so that I can pull it up as well and I can better discuss this, because I'm completely lost. I think others are lost, and I want to be able to have a conversation because
Yeah, we don't want to be lost.
right, like I don't want to misinterpret what you're saying, because everything that I
Right.
read is not lining up.
She might be looking for something.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And again, I'm sorry if I'm coming off rude. I'm not trying to. So please.
I think you're fine. I think you're
For the
fine.
new girl, what the fuck?
You
I
know,
know,
listen, I just
right?
got heated in a live last night, okay? I'm super sensitive right now. Don't make me cry. No, I'm just kidding.
Gianna,
Stop being
why
such
you
a
gotta
little
heckle the new
bitch.
girl?
Golly.
I knew that was coming. Thank you. Oh, I'm trying to be a black crayon. Gee, that's all.
God, black crayon.
It's been my life stream, okay? I just want to be a black crayon.
No, I'm gonna be honest. I have no fucking clue what anybody's talking about. I came out. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I thought we were talking about DNA, and then all of a sudden we were talking about cell phone towers. I was confused as
We
shit.
are. We're talking about both.
Okay, but what is
Yeah.
the DNA? Okay, so while she's looking for that, let's go back. What the fuck is the DNA that they're talking about? That there were the mixed. Where did the mixed blood DNA come from?
She was saying that there's a mixture on the DNA found on the sheath. And I'll be
Right.
honest, I'm like, that's the first time I've ever heard
Me too.
anything like that.
Me too, but Tiny referenced it as well, so it must be I think it might be somewhere.
Well, she was saying it's in the docs about the Franks hearing. I think that's what she said.
Yeah, she
Oh,
said, I think she might be looking for it now. I don't know.
Right,
She
and
said,
some
it was
of
mentioned
which
in the minutes
right, some
of
of
the
which
Franks
was
hearing.
in the Franks hearing that we were privy to was this trash pull, and in mixing in with the trash pull, we're getting the IgG, and then we go back to the trash pull, and then IgG, and we're going back to the trash pull. So in my mind, from what I read and I'm interpreting, I think that's where we're getting the mixed DNA, because there was mixed DNA from that. And there was
Yeah,
also,
but are they saying that there was male DNA that didn't match to Kohberger, but that was male DNA on like in the blood mixture? Like, because that's crazy.
they're saying on the trash pull from Pennsylvania that there was a
No,
mixture from the trash, but not
no, they're
from
saying
the
from the
sheep.
sheath.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
the
she said the
Q
sheep.
1.4 swab from the sheath that is a blood mixture excluding BK, meaning it's a blood mixture of male and female, but there was no, uh, but it didn't match BK.
Right, and I'm
But
just
where did
wondering
that come from?
where that
Yeah,
is.
where did that come from is what I mean, like that specific statement. Where did that come from so that we can look at it?
Right.
Okay, I'm looking for the cell phone tower one first, and then I'll pull that because the cell phone tower one is in one individual document. Um,
Peachy, ask Chad.
wait, what?
You're gonna you're gonna give me a high five for this, okay? I'm asking you to ask Chad. Right
Okay.
now.
Okay.
I just want to, okay, listen. Okay, here, trying to pull it up.
You're gonna
Okay,
try to
so
pull it
it
up?
was not stated, Tiny, was it I'm just asking, like, was it stated that it was male slash female DNA or just mixture of blood DNA? Because that doesn't, I mean, if it's just a mixture of blood, that was probably a mixture of like Maddie and Kaylee's blood. You know, if it's just a mixture of blood, that was probably a mixture of like Maddie and Kaylee's blood. You know what I mean? Not if it's not a male DNA. Then I don't really care
Hmm.
about it if that makes sense. Like if I'm, you know what I mean? Like if it's female DNA, then I don't really care about it. It doesn't really matter, right? Because like who cares?
Very
Right,
true.
and also to get into this, when there is a mixture, there's going to be a major contributor and there's going to be a minor contributor. So a lot of the times when we have a mixture, that major contributor is obviously the more powerful sample. So if that is overpowering the other part of the mixture, they're not going to be able to include or exclude, or you know what I mean? It's going to be inconclusive. That's
Yeah.
why I really want to read this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean. I want to see it too. I want to like understand what
Yeah,
it's
me
actually saying.
too.
Like, should we care about it or not? Right? Like, is it worth talking about or not? Kind of thing.
Yep. That's kind of where I'm at.
This one. I'm trying to find the.
You're fine.
Hey,
Um,
Nikki, haven't seen you. Love you. Hope you're feeling well.
Hello. I'm doing day by day. I hope you're good. How's the baby?
So good. She's so cute, Nikki. I love her so much. She's just
Oh,
like, I don't
tiny.
know, they always say like you don't know what you're missing until you have it. And like, ugh, I just can't even believe that I ever lived a life without her. She's just like the most precious little thing in the whole world. Like, I don't know if she'll ever be able to like make me mad ever in her whole life. She's
No.
so sweet. She's just the best.
Tiny said,
Oh, here.
Rylene, can you read it? Do you say it?
Yeah. Riley, Nolan,
My,
and reference touch and contact DNA page time. Oh, MIL number 6. That doesn't really tell me.
I got it. What page did she say? 10?
Yeah, page 10, second paragraph. God, what would we do without Heinzie? These documents, like, not that I
I
can't read
know.
them, but like, God,
Okay.
I know. I'm just listening, taking it all in right now. I'm doing my toenails.
I have to do
Y'all don't
mine
mind
so
me.
bad.
I need to
Thank you,
do
Tiny.
mine too. We're bad.
maybe somebody and it's the doc. I can't. It's the document where she goes through all of the defense goes through this.
Somebody said 224. I think earlier in the chat they referenced to you and said 224. I don't know if you saw it.
Oh no, I didn't. Let me look.
Oh yeah, that's the date of this document. At least this one.
Oh,
Oh
the one
yeah,
that
got
you're
it.
reading. Oh, okay. No.
The
Oh, that
transcript.
was recent.
Um. It's not this one.
Okay. Now let's go.
Okay, time for me to plug Heinz's birthday again.
You're gonna wear it
For
out,
anybody
girl.
that,
Birthday!
for any newcomers, we're celebrating Heinz's birthday. This is what she wanted to do. So, wish our girl happy birthday. Okay, carry on.
Yes.
Lindsay, it's your birthday?
It is
Yeah,
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's why I was like, I knew I okay, that's why.
Well, I didn't know if we were gonna we were like right on the, are we gonna lose TikTok? Are we not gonna lose TikTok? So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
let's just celebrate on Friday.
Yeah.
Okay. And now I read what they're referencing to, but what I'm doing is now looking for the state's response. Because that, I want the complete picture,
Mm-hmm.
not just part of it.
If they responded.
Yeah.
Off topic for a minute, Gianna.
Mm.
I absolutely love your video of your mother-in-law
Oh my
explaining to
God,
you.
you guys,
That was
that's such an
great. That
right.
was great. I loved it.
Oh, the other lady, she has the other lady on right now. There's another lady that does it too in Turkey, that they do like all like the drama stuff, and it's so like I'm always like so interested, but I don't understand a word they're saying, but I still watch it because you could just for the like the going back and forth and like their expressions and stuff. It's so funny.
Oh, I loved it. It was great.
I love when my mother-in-law tells me about it.
He is cute.
Look, she's funny. She likes all the gossip.
All right.
She's like me.
While I'm still looking for this response, I'll just read what
Okay.
it says.
I have the document of the cell towers too when you guys are ready.
So, going on to page 10. This takes forever. So it's saying, in this case, the only DNA evidence that implicates Mr. Kohberger is the DNA found on the sheath found in the residence from the lab reports and notes, as well as the recent testimony by Ryland Nolan. It appears that the sample Q1.1 was the swabbing of the leather strap on the sheath, as well as the interior of the snap, not the outer snap surface, which apparently was not sampled in order to preserve the surface for fingerprinting. No serological testing was done in the area swab for Q1.1 to identify any biological material. An area identified as Q1.4, in quotation, swabs of the stains on back of the sheath tested presumptively positive for blood and was DNA tested. Mr. Kohberger was excluded from this particular sample, which was identified as a mixture, ISP lab report, yada, yada, yada. Thus, the government has the burden to prove the when and how of the DNA identified in Q1.1. So again, this to me, presumptively positive for blood found underneath one of the victims, we can almost positively assume that that would be victim's blood. So then we're going to come down to the minor and major contributors. So him being excluded would, now I'm not saying that you guys are wrong, but in my assumption here, if he is the minor contributor, he could still be excluded because the sample of the major contributor is outweighing the minor contributor.
Right.
So it's not nefarious to me, because we also have documents where they're coming back and they're arguing and saying that there's an alternative perp, but they have provided no evidence to support that claim. So if this was a sample from a different male contributor, that should be disclosed, because it has to be for them to bring it into trial.
Right.
Wait,
Yeah.
repeat that one more time. That last part.
So there are plenty of back and forth between the defense saying that there's an alternative perp and somebody planted the sheath, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, for months now, the state has been coming back and saying that they are not meeting the standards to be able to bring this up at trial. They're not meeting the expectation of their burden to be able to bring that in. They're not providing enough evidence to say that there's an alternative perp. So what they're doing is putting in these documents, hey, there's somebody else that planted it there, but they're not proving their claims whatsoever. And if there is a different contributor on the knife sheath that is male and they know who that is something that you would think they would then put forth to get their alternative perp.
So here's the thing. This is why I was mentioning this before, is those things were part of the IgG analysis in the beginning. And in the earlier documents, they indicate that they stopped the search on those in the IgG once they did the trash pull of Kohberger. So I just to give you a little bit of like just a little bit of background.
I can kind of.
Okay.
I'm following you.
Okay, so we won't know if they even have that, if that's what was part of the IgG, because it was already ruled as irrelevant because they're not using it, and therefore the defense can't even see if they ran it, what it came up on, did it not hit, and did it just end? They, in their most recent document, said they finally gave the answer as to why they never tested it. They finally gave the answer to it, but we don't know what that answer is or what it pertains to. We just know if that includes being part of the IgG, that's a dead end. They can't. They were precluded from even going down that avenue before they even found out that avenue existed. Okay, but to counter that, in the hearing from January 23rd that was sealed, and then they gave us the transcript for it, the lab manager does talk about the fact that they will not rely on mixtures to do that type of thing anyways, because it's not a reliable source, because you're going to... Okay, so you just have to remember... In my words, they're going to mess it up. They need a single source to be able to do that, not a mixture. But also just to keep in your mind is that the things that they're releasing do not touch on any of the things that were done in camera, because they won't. Those things they're intentionally kept separate. Anything that's brought in camera, which is like in chambers behind closed doors, will not be in any kind of testimony. You're not going to see it in any kind of documents. So you really have to look between the lines in order to piece together what that information could be, or more than likely pertains to. And the defense in their most recent documents allude to what it is that they believe that's there. So none of what they've spoken about now has any reason, anything pertaining to that information. We don't know anything.
Which is why you said when you came in that you believed he was a part of it, but not fully.
Well, so if I was to give my legal conclusion based upon what's there, I don't know, because of the information that they're withholding, and not that they're withholding legally, they have a loophole, right? And when attorneys find that loophole, in my opinion, I respect that, right? Because they're doing their job, but I don't know what that information says. I have no clue. But so my background before I was an attorney, I have two bachelor degrees in biochemistry and molecular biology. So I understand the science aspects
Hmm.
of things. Okay, just to give you a little bit of a background. When they're talking about some of the things that they're talking about, I can follow along relatively well. And what it looks like to me from what my understanding of the legal jargon that they're using, the way that they're talking about certain things, the argument that now Barlow is making is that she wanted that information out, the IGG, right? And that means that whatever she's planning to bring up counters that information, and that IGG could potentially counter it, which means the percentages are most likely going to end up being extremely low, right? And then also the fact that they never tested those things. If she could talk about that, that'd be great, because they admitted it. They admitted that they stopped it. So like, let's just think of it this way. So the blood sample on the back of the sheath, right, that had the mixture. Somewhere I've read that there was at least two potential male DNA on there. That's all that I've been able to figure out pertaining to that blood sample. And there's another letter that they exclude other than Brian's, because Brian's is continuously marked as A. And the one that I believe they're excluding, I believe, is Maddie's. That's just my opinion.
Hmm.
When you run through the IgG system, right? And let's say they run all three of those things. Now you have, let's just say I have my DNA, I don't know, Gia, hopefully I'm saying your name right, and Curvy, right? We're the three people. Let's say Gia's and Curvy's families, none of them really have done any like Ancestry, 23andMe, so on and so forth, right? For whatever reason. Let's say my family does. If they run all three of those through the system and mine's going to get a hit first, and they go off of that from the beginning because now they have information and they're trying to find the person who did this, right? And then they go and they pull the trash, and now the trash comes back as a positive match. What it's showing is then at that point, they told the IgG lab to stop work on the other things that they were
Okay.
running. So we don't know what was hit, because the judge did tell the state that they did have to hand over a certain amount of the IgG information, but it's only the work that was done prior to the stop work moment. And that stop work moment, we have no idea what could be in there, because we don't know. We don't know if, let's just say hypothetically, to go back to the phone data, right? That night on the Moscow main tower near the house, there was 3,800 devices that pinged, none of which were Brian's. Okay, so let's just say they never went with the IgG in the first place, and they did it based upon the traditional scientific the traditional investigation, right? It would have taken them, in theory, 3,800 different people looking into
Hmm.
before they then went outside of that tower and could have possibly gotten to Brian. And who knows if within those 3,800, those other two DNA that they stopped work on could have had a hit. That's where my issue is, because I don't know what information is in there. I don't know. I have not a conclusion, but I have assumptions that I've come to in reference to it, and it has to do with reading Barlow's documents and so on and so forth. That's a really in-depth, super conversation, but that's why I have an issue with that, is because there was other DNA on that sheath. It was a single source under the button, but not a single source on the entire sheath itself, if that makes any sense.
Right, but we knew that all along, knowing that it was found underneath one of the victims.
Yeah, so, but the other DNA that was searched, we don't know what it is, because they stopped work to it, and that's part of the IgG that has been ruled irrelevant and will never know.
Right. But again, my point is they're not going to use a mixture for IgG. They're going to use a single source.
But they
Because
ran
when you
it.
put a mixture in, whoever it's mixed with, essentially whoever is strong enough of a contributor in that mixture, you're going to get those results. So then it's going to completely blow up everything that you're trying to find, right? So you're going to want to use a single source. So while I understand what you're saying, they're not going to use a mixture DNA for IgG.
But they did. They ran it, and they were it was being sent to the other part to create the family profiles on those DNA, and then it was immediately stopped the moment that the trash pull was done. And that's in the documents. So they did start the analysis, and then they stopped. And they never gave an answer to it until recently as to why they stopped it. But all the document says is, and I believe it's Barlow that wrote it, and she just says it wasn't until recently that the state gave us an answer as to why they never continued with that. And that's it. That's all she says.
So
So
just to clarify, what you're saying though is that that mixture of DNA, okay, they did work on it. They went to go and they went to go do the profiles on it. And when you're saying they stopped,
Was when they came
because
back
they
with Brian's.
with Brian,
exactly.
but so that DNA, that doesn't mean that that DNA couldn't have been a mixture of the victim's DNA. They just didn't get that far to find out whose DNA it was. So while it could be the victim's, it could have been somebody else's. We just don't know because they didn't get that far into investigating it because they stopped once they hit on Brian.
So from yes, what you're saying, yes,
Could have been Brian's.
I agree. No, they
Right.
excluded him from
Right.
that.
I
He's
just mean
not
like
in
we
it.
don't know. It's not that it's a suspicious thing. It's just
Exactly.
that we don't know who it would have come back to.
Okay, exactly. But my issue is one step one step beyond that, which is if because it was coming up with something, they were creating something. If it further proved their theory, why wouldn't they want it in?
Well, because what I am from what I understand is that a lot of what they did with that IgG, they ran it through some databases that they shouldn't have run it through and used some tactics that they shouldn't have done. And
Right.
so that's why they don't want it in, is because then that could be used by the defense in a negative light because they did do some things that they probably weren't supposed to do, which I don't think is right. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I can understand why they wouldn't want it used if they went through some avenues that weren't
Mm-hmm.
kosher. You know
So
what I'm
Right.
saying?
you are allowed to use the avenues that they used.
No, they used
No,
the two of the databases that they used, they were not supposed to use. They were not some that are not like consented to be used for police reasons. They used two that were and two that weren't. That was in the documents that they
Okay.
said that they did that.
Okay. So, I mean that could be obviously a reasoning for sure. I mean, and I'm sure that I believe what you're saying. I totally do.
Yeah, I mean it's
I
in the
haven't read
it's
it.
in
documents.
the.
We could
I was
pull
gonna
it.
say
Yeah, I
it's
mean
in the
like it's in there.
documents.
Okay.
Yeah.
But for me, even if that is the case and the defense could use it against them, I still, even if it's just the fact that they mentioned the two that is okay and they exclude the other two, they're not even doing that. They're not even using the word IgG. And it's
No,
No,
they're
they're not
because
not.
using it at all. They're not using
but
that at
it's
all.
because if they do, it will open the door. And then
Exactly.
and they don't so for me as right, so there's going to be evidence obviously in every situation or things that happen that you isn't favorable, things that are favorable. But if that further DNA on that sheath and they can show to the jury that yeah, the way that we went about this technically wasn't right, but the outcome is the outcome, and outcome is that it's only his, you like they would have to weigh that to make the decision. But the fact that they're going to such extent as to saying it's okay, we just won't use the IgG word at all.
Yeah, but I don't think it's because of the other two DNAs, is what I'm saying. I don't think that that's the reason why they don't want to use the IgG word. I think that the reason why they don't want to use the IgG word is because they went through the avenues that they weren't supposed to, and that will look bad to a jury, and it could potentially like not be in their favor. I don't think it has anything to do with the other two DNAs because I do believe that the other DNAs were from the girls.
So I'm going to go back and I'm going to look because I'm pretty sure that there is, because I remember reading the letters and it was up until letter D. And I'm pretty sure that one of them was already taken out because that's been used by Maddie. The other one was A, that was Brian. There was two other ones those are the two in question. And you could be right. That could be why, but for me, I guess I'm not making a determination as to why they're not. I'm just saying that could be
Yeah,
why.
it could
So,
be. It definitely could be,
and
and
the
and
way
it
that
could
they're
be relevant or not too. You know what I mean?
yeah, but the issue that I have is right handing something over that isn't necessarily favorable, right? And
Yeah,
it
but it's
can't be
not just not
used.
favorable, it's illegal,
No,
right?
but it
So
can't
they
be used
used
anyway, right? Because they're not using it in their case in chief, so they can't bring it up.
right, and that's what I mean is like it's not just that the IgG, the way that they went about it was like not favorable, but it also was like in lack of better words, illegal, right? They shouldn't have done it. It was not agreed upon. People that put their DNA into those databases did not consent. They could have a lawsuit on their hands from it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not just that, like, oopsie, we made a little mistake. Like, it's a big thing. And I think that that's why it could lead to more problems than not.
Is that in the
Um,
earlier documents where they're talking about
Yes, it was I don't know exactly when it was, but I do not. I don't know if Heinze, if you know exactly when that document
Which
came out.
which documents are we talking about?
The
right?
one that's about the IgG and how they got it, like how they obtained it. It was like a few months ago, right? That it was like that they obtained it and they used those two databases
It was like
that they weren't
a
supposed to.
4 months ago, like a while. It wasn't recent.
And is it in relation to like is it
The
on the ones
IgG.
that say
It'll
like
it'll say like IgG in the document like name when you go to the Idaho, docs.
Right. Can I ask a question while I'm looking for this? If this is information that
Yeah.
is helping the defense,
Do you want
why
it?
are they trying to get it left out?
I have my theory about
You
that,
can have
and
it.
that is because of what I think Barlow's going to target as her main source of unraveling that information. And that's why she was brought on. Because if you look at the documents of pertaining to the IgG, the touch DNA, and all of those things, and the documents and the arguments that are being made prior to her coming on and then after her coming on, there's a huge difference in the approach as far as Barlow. So she testified originally on Brian's behalf as an expert in DNA. She's also an attorney. She's a defense attorney in the state of California. She then, after analyzing everything, is now volunteering and got her pro hac vice for the state of Idaho to be co-counsel and is handling all of the DNA aspect in relation to the case. So if this is aired, you'll see her being the attorney in relation to all things DNA and then the other attorney for the other things. If you look at the difference between those documents, you will see that the analysis and the approach has completely changed as far as since she came into play. She is harping super heavily on how that DNA got there. And my opinion is that it has to do with the percentages. The percentage I believe that IgG shows that I think I read in one of the earlier documents, which was released, is above, I believe, 0.5. And I think that would be, I'm pretty sure that then that would not directly counter, but could pose a potential of an issue, because I think her argument is going to be that it was transfer DNA, that he didn't directly touch it. And she has a good argument for that. Science backs her up. There is a scientific and mathematical analysis that they use in order to determine whether or not it was direct touch via transfer. And the number that is in the IgG, I think, would mess with it a little bit. And that's why when she came in, she said, we're not fighting anymore to have this removed, like to hand it over. We just don't want it to be mentioned then, because that works in her benefit. Because if then the jury never sees any of those percentages, can never see any of those numbers, doesn't even know the word IgG, now she can go based off of the swabs, and those swabs are going to show way lower percentages, which is going to benefit her argument, in my opinion, from what I've been reading, that she's going to say that it was transfer and not direct touch.
I see what you're saying. Okay, so from the swab to the percentage that they are having to match to the sheath is going to be much lower
Yes,
without the IgG because of how low it was, right? How
exactly.
little DNA it was. It's going to work in her favor that they're not mentioning any IgG or how they got to that or whatever and all that stuff. And there she's going to say, well, this was just transferred DNA. Look at how low the percentage of DNA was on the sheath. And yes, does it match Brian Kohberger? Yes, but the low percentage on there is transfer DNA. He probably didn't even touch it.
That's exactly what I think her argument's going to
Okay.
be. And you can see that through her experts. You can see that through her arguing over the word touch. She doesn't want them to be able to use the word touch, because in science, the word touch doesn't mean what we think of touch. Touch DNA in science is what we would look at as transfer. She
Got
doesn't
it.
want their expert. Her whole argument is their DNA expert that's talking about it is not an expert in how it got there, just that it's there. And that she should be precluded from making the determination of how it got there. And that's the whole argument over using the word touch. So to me, that screams that is her approach. That is what she's going after. That is where she's going to basically railroad the entire case as far as the DNA goes, which is why when she came on, she said, no, keep this. We if they don't want to hand it over to us, just leave it that way, because then we can say they can't use it.
So the
Okay.
judge announced that he was going to release the redacted transcript from the closed door hearing.
So that's not the in camera.
That's not the in-camera one?
Nope,
Okay.
those are completely different.
Okay.
Because the in camera won't
So
even be handed over to the defense.
so let's look
Okay.
at okay, so let's assume just for right now that that is what she's going to argue and that that's the truth. Okay, let's just for the sake of argument,
Sure.
there is such little DNA on the sheath and they're not using the IgG or anything, and she's going to argue that it is transfer DNA, like he didn't even touch it, like look at how low the percentage is, this and that. Where how I mean, this is a question for all of us. That kind of fucking, that's crazy, right?
There's
Like that's because that's what we have right now is that what we know as DNA to put him there.
so
And
it's
that's
even
like
more than
really
that.
like the,
So the scientific, like how you determine scientifically if it is transfer versus direct touch. So you look at the numbers. There's I can't remember what it is. It's like Bryson. I think it's like Bryson analysis. Will give you an exact mathematical number of what the percentage is of the likelihood that it was transfer versus touch, that their expert is going to talk about, because it's within some of those documents. Also, where the DNA is found plays a role as far as whether it's touch or transfer, the type of DNA that it is, and all of that. And I'm just being completely transparent, but all of the factors that would lean towards it being transfer versus direct touch shows that it was transfer. And it is, that part of it is in the favor of the defense.
right. And so what I'm saying is let's assume that that is true, right? Like let's assume that is all proven by the defense. It's all proven by the defense that it's transfer. He never even really touched it, whatever, right? It's such a
Yeah.
little amount. Now, where do we lie here? You know what I mean? Like, now is it all, because they right now we don't know if they have more DNA or not. Like, we don't know what else they have, like, from the other documents and whatever. But where does that if that is completely taken out and we put that aside, the DNA stuff aside, what really are we left with, right?
So what you're left with then at that point is what they relied on in the PCA, which is the cell
Right.
phone data and the cell phone data and the driving thing, which is why then I was like, okay, well, hold on a second, let me look at the cell phone data to see how strong that case is. That's what
Right.
led me into that. And I think that's the state's weakest point is the cell phone data because of the things that have been and that was the document that I was bringing up before, which I can tell you this is reply to state's response to defendant's motion in limine number 2, vague and undisclosed expert testimony on 324. And I'm gonna, if you go down, she lays out the experts, the rebuttals, all of that. There's a part of this that talks about balance, which is their expert SA balance for the cell phone stuff. He's the one that did the analysis of it, and that is what you see in the PCA. So there's just a few pieces of this that because remember I said I don't remember who asked, but they asked what they haven't handed over yet. Because somebody asked if it was the AT&T time data, and I said no. So I'm just gonna read this to you really quick. These are just the bold points. So it says, it is noteworthy that the state has never disclosed SA Balance's methodology used to create his report. He has never disclosed how his maps were created. SA Balance has omitted over 90% of the AT&T data during the relevant times he chose to map. There is no disclosure as to why this DNA was omitted. The state has never produced an actual opinion by SA Balance about the general location of Mr. Kohberger's cellular telephone was at various times before and after the homicides, and the phone's direction of travel. The disclosure does not state who produced the maps or how they were analyzed. The disclosure lacks an opinion about the mapping program or its production. The state has not disclosed records that verify the mapping program, nor has it stated Balance is an expert in mapping. SA Balance went to great lengths to obtain raw drive test data in this case. Despite those efforts, he has only produced the mapping of that data for less than 5% of the relative cell sites in his work product. There has been no disclosure as to why he omitted 95% of the relevant coverage. And then she goes into say, the state has not disclosed an analysis or where SA Balance will claim the phone was located. These are the 7 critical minutes that contain exculpatory evidence. And the state has not disclosed this analysis. The state has not disclosed its analysis in its 2/17/25 disclosure. It was these times the state claimed were cumbersome and a waste of time to analyze. So they handed over the raw data, but they have not handed over their experts' analysis of how he came up with his data, because the data that he wrote is not the AT&T data. They're different.
Right.
So that's why they want his testimony completely stricken and not being allowed to even be used because
Because they didn't
they won't
provide
hand it
it.
over. They won't hand it over.
I wonder why.
I mean, I don't know. We could speculate, but that's an issue to me. That was the other main point as to why I was saying that they're shady, right? And again, in all lawsuits, I can pinpoint when attorneys are shady. There are times when someone could even indicate that I was shady as an attorney, because that's just how it's perceived. So I'm not saying that the defense hasn't done things that I would maybe characterize as potentially shady, but the degree in which they're being shady is problematic to me. It's a different level of shady, to the point that this expert, the defense's expert, calls out the court in a way that and everyone knows as attorneys you don't do unless you know for a fact that this is occurring, because you're going to go down a path you don't want to go. So
Right.
for him to challenge that, and then to know that, look, their expert is basically saying, here's my analysis, I'm not telling you how I got there, just trust my analysis.
Trust me, bro. We don't do trust me, bro, around here.
That's a problem to me, because that data that he's using, right, is only 5%. And not only that, it's not 5% of the raw data. He took the raw data, put it into a program that he's not an expert in using, then did a drive to see where the car could be in proximity to those cell pings, and then made it fit the time, and won't hand over the analysis to show how he got to that conclusion. That's an issue to me. Like, that's a really big issue, because you can't,
For the IgG analysis to show them how they got to.
No, the cell phone.
No, the cell phone.
No, this
data.
is the
Okay. I'm
cell
sorry.
phone.
I'm lost. I was looking at some other stuff, so I'm just coming back in.
The cell phone
Tuned it
tower.
out.
The cell phone tower stuff, to me, quite honestly, is the most concerning. Because
to me, now that you're talking about the other DNA stuff and whatever, it sounds like it's also the most valuable
And
evidence.
it's what they relied on in the PCA, because they didn't mention the IgG. And in my opinion, they did that strategically, because they knew if they didn't rely, part of the test that they do is if it's not, sorry, I'm going to take a step back. The judge's ruling of why it was deemed irrelevant is because they didn't use it in the PCA or in order to ascertain any warrants. That's why it was being held as irrelevant.
Right.
They did that strategically. And I'm telling you that and again, that's an assumption, but they knew that if they put that in there, they would have to hand that over, and they didn't want it handed over for whatever reason, whether it's because the other two DNA, whether it's because they knew what they did was illegal. Either way, they did it strategically. But the information that they did rely on, knowing that information in that PCA was done by a program that person isn't an expert in, with only relying on 5% of the data, and then the data that they put in the PCA isn't even the actual data points from AT&T, it's data points made from the actual data. If that makes any sense. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, if he was there and he really did this, you should be able to use the majority of that raw data to show that he did this. You shouldn't need to take 5%, then put it into a program to create your own data and then rely on that data.
Well,
that's
skewed. Cy Ray wasn't he only able to account for 7 minutes of Kohberger's phone that night?
Yep.
So, no, there's 7. Oh.
Yeah, it's only 7 minutes that he could account for Kohberger's phone.
Yep.
Cy Ray.
Cy Ray is the defense's cell phone expert.
I believe that the 7 minutes is the exculpatory data that they're saying it wasn't pinged, and they're saying that they excluded it completely because the state stated, I believe the quote is that it was cumbersome.
Well,
I believe that's what that 7 minutes is. It's just that the 7 critical minutes that contain exculpatory evidence.
Because he was traveling not in the direction of Moscow, and then he turned his phone off.
And then it was off.
20 minutes after the unalivings took place, he was south of Moscow. So if he wasn't anywhere near the scene, how did he ping south of Moscow?
So I'm not sure. I don't know that he said that he can only account for 7 minutes. Cy Ray?
Yeah, it's in his affidavit, because the judge declined to let him, do his testimony. So he said instead, just submit an affidavit. And that's the affidavit that is in the documents that was just put out maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember reading it. I just don't remember him saying in here that he
It's in
only
the like very, I want to say it's like in the first 2 paragraphs.
Okay, I have the document pulled. You're talking about where it says the timing advance?
It's literally, it's Cyray's affidavit. It's
Yeah.
called something affidavit.
Yeah, I have it. That's what I'm looking at. I don't remember him saying that he can only account for 7 minutes. Everything that I've seen as far as the 7 minutes is that 7 minutes is the exculpatory information that the state
That's
is
the
looking at.
information that they need that they're not handing over, and that's where it would be exculpatory.
Yeah, not that he can only account for 7 minutes, unless I understood what you said. Because I think that there's, as far as I know,
Look at
um, I mean, again, unless I'm,
no, it probably does say what you're. Maybe we misunderstood. They misunderstood when they read it.
So his argument was that the timing advanced data for 3,800 people excluded Kohberger's,
yeah,
and
he
it didn't
wasn't in it.
produce timing advanced records, and that it was, yeah. But that 3,800, I need to pull up I'm trying to remember. Is that the
Yeah.
7 minutes? Do you
No,
remember, Gia? Or I can't remember.
the 7 minutes is from the other document that I was mentioning before, where they talk about the exculpatory information. And it's not that they didn't hand that over. It's that they just didn't even bother to even look at it because it was too cumbersome. So they just excluded it in their analysis.
Ooh, look, a swan
You're
too.
talking about the part where, because this is in the other document where it says the state does not disclose essay balance to review of reliability. The state is creating wiggle room for balance to testify to something undisclosed at this time. This particular area impacts 7 minutes of time and exculpatory information. Is that what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Hang
Where
on.
they're
Yeah,
claiming
I'm
his
still
phone was
looking.
off.
And they don't have the timing advance
Mm-hmm.
records because they asked for the timing advance records over a month after they are retained by AT&T. So there is no way for them to have them.
So here they say that so in the thing I read to you before, it stated that they did have it. They just ruled it as cumbersome, so they didn't go into any further analysis. Hold on. I can read it. It says in its 2/17/25 disclosure, it was these times that the state claimed were cumbersome and a waste of time to analyze. So they have it. They have those 7 minutes. They just didn't. It was too much for them to look at, is what their justification was in that document 2/17/25 disclosure.
That's crazy that it was too much to look at.
That, I
Like
mean, that's
what?
their word. That's their wording. I don't. That's why the cell phone tower to me is the most alarming. But also, they say this is after this part. It says this particular area impacts 7 minutes of time and exculpatory information. This is the 7 minutes between 2:47 and 2:54 a.m. The state applied for search warrants and its arrest warrants claiming Mr. Kohberger's phone stopped reporting to the network at 2:47. However, later the state had conceded, based on its own discovery disclosures, that the phone went off the network at 2:54, not 2:47. Between the time of 2:47 and 2:54, the phone was on and receiving service. It was utilizing cell towers the phone was not stationary and utilizing only one tower. The phone was moving during these 7 minutes. During the 7 minutes, the towers hand off service as the phone is moving. These handoffs, once analyzed, locate the direction movement of the location of the phone when it stops reporting at 2:54. The state asserts SA Balance mapped this data but has not produced it. That's their whole issue, is that they conceded it. They conceded that they said it wasn't moving and it wasn't pinging.
But it was.
Yes, and that he mapped that data out, but that's the data and the analysis that he's refusing to hand over.
The pings and the towers, right? The towers, right? We're not talking about a cast yet. Because
What do you
that might
mean?
show something different, right? I'm asking.
Wait, no, say that again. I'm sorry.
I'm asking. So you've got timing advance, which is determines the towers, right? The phone
Yes.
pinging off the towers, that kind of thing. He's arguing that, but that's not the same as the cast that's going to show geolocation, how they because even if the phone's turned off, it's going to be able to be tracked at some point through a cast, right? Am I wrong about that? I'm just asking.
No, not if it's off. It won't be able to be tracked through that. Not if the phone
So
was completely off.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I,
So that
okay.
data is then used into to create the cast. So what you're saying is accurate,
Okay.
but
But
that's
not while
not.
the phone is off.
No, but the phone wasn't. The state originally said the phone was off.
But we
But
know, right? But
Right.
you're saying for those 7 minutes. I'm talking after those 7 minutes from the time that the phone was off till it turned on again. You won't be able to get any cast from that if the phone was off because it's not pinging and there's no data coming from it.
so yes, what you're saying is yes, but what they're actually saying is that after that time that they're okay. So before the time that the phone quote unquote shuts off, that they didn't hand over, like they excluded that information because it was too cumbersome, but that information actually puts him at a way different location, completely different location, that makes
Okay.
it exculpatory that he could not have been in the area of the crime.
Oh, because he went the opposite way for 7 minutes or something. Like he went
Exactly. Exactly. That's what they're
somewhere else.
saying, and that the state is conceding that, and they want that. They want not only the data, which is a separate document, but they want his analysis of it, and he will not give it to them.
Oh,
Because they can do the analysis themselves. They did do the analysis themselves. I believe in the other document that you guys were talking about, as far as Cy Ray's affidavit, I believe he says that, well, first of all, that they had the records prior. They didn't have the records. The FBI had the records way further that he has personal information from, because he's seen the emails, so on and so forth. But I believe that at this point they have handed it over. That they do have it now. The timing advance data. As far as his affidavit.
I think that
But
we're gonna.
the
This is
state is also arguing that Ray's affidavit is vague and they're potentially leading to an unfair surprise at trial. That's what their response is. They need
The
more.
state
Yeah.
to his
Well,
They
if it's
affidavit.
coming from their data, it shouldn't be an unfair surprise if what Ray is saying is coming from their
Right, but
data
that's
that
what the
they're
state is
providing.
saying, that some of his expert disclosures are vague and lack specific like details required by court rules, potentially leading to unfair surprise during trial.
Wait, where are you reading that from? The state is arguing that?
I'm just getting, um, yeah, yeah, Chat
Which
GPT. I'm just typing in questions and looking at it
so I
that
think
way.
I
The
just read a
sources are, hang on a second. Let's see. Let me pull up this Idaho court document. It pulled it right up. Let's see. It's from March 26, 2025. Comes now, Brian Kohberger by the state. Hereby thoughts. Hang on a second. All right, hang on. I gotta go back.
For all you newcomers.
Innocent plug.
What?
I said innocent plug.
Hmm.
For all you newcomers, it's Heise's birthday. Please feel
It
free to
is.
gift.
No, 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 no. I'm not up here begging. Please don't feel obligated to do that.
No, she's not. She's not up here begging. I'm just
We are.
suggesting.
Give her gifts now.
Gee, we are.
Give
Oh,
her
man.
gifts right now. She needs a coffee tomorrow.
Right, and I'm reading stuff, so I'm not even paying attention to people that are gifting me, and I feel terrible because I'm sitting up here with a whole ton of coins, and that is just
God
absolutely
damn
amazing.
it.
Thank you. I feel bad. I
Could pay attention, bitch. We're over here panhandling for you. The least you could do is pay attention.
You're right. You're right. I'm gonna stare at my phone from now on. Thank you, Pack. I appreciate that.
Pack sent you a lovely
Go
gift.
down.
It was, I believe it was jellyfish. Thank her.
I missed a jellyfish.
Yeah,
Oh,
and you missed another one too. I think it might have
sorry.
been a llama. I can't remember.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I saw
shit.
like a firework when we first came in, and Bucket Boy just had
Here
Mother
we
at
go.
the field day. He's like, "Is that fireworks?" It was so cute.
I'm just gonna let everybody know in advance. My birthday is on May 29th, so if you need to save or whatever, I'm just kidding.
You need to save.
I'll give
Oh,
you
that
2 months in
was
advance for that.
so
I'm just kidding.
No, you're not.
No, I am.
We're gonna panhandle for you. Is what we're gonna do. It's payback time, Missy.
I'll dress in a funny outfit for you. Oh, look at Pete or Heinzie.
Ooh, that one's one of my favorites. I'm not gonna lie, it's so cool.
Oh, look a bear too.
Dang! Thank you guys. Seriously, you don't have to do that, but I'm blushing.
Bye.
it should be
Ariana, what are you doing here?
in one of the documents that are marked as AT&T, correct?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
It's
What
one
was
of
that?
the state's response is what you're saying it's in?
That's what I'm reading. I've got like it pulled up a bunch of different. Hang on, I'm still looking. Sorry. Yeah, I
Oh,
just
you're
type
fine,
in
you're
the
fine.
questions and usually it'll put in the Idaho judicial cases of interest and I can click on it, but it's got like a bunch or I got to go through them to find the right one. So just bear with me.
Wait, Rachel. Are you still here, Rachel? Give me a hey yo if you want He's in the chat, so I'm
Yes,
not
she's
talking to
here.
dead air.
She's here. So you
Um,
just said
Rachacha. I remember earlier today when we were talking, and I was like, I used what are you doing here, Ariana? And I couldn't remember when it was. And now I remember when it was. It was from Landon's birthday because the driver's name was Ariana. Remember? Sorry, I had to get that out because I just remembered. By the way, Rachel sent Landon a very, very cute gift for his birthday, and it was so sweet and so nice, and it was just very, very, very sweet, and I just appreciate it so much. He was very, very, very happy. But the
girl, that is
driver's
so
name was Ariana. And so I texted, when she messaged it to me, I texted her and I said, "What are you doing here, Ariana?" Because because of the sound on TikTok. It was very funny. It was a perfect use of it and perfect timing. I'm actually hilarious if you didn't know. I pride myself on being funny sometimes.
You are funny sometimes.
Sometimes I get a
Most
good
of the
one.
time. Yeah, most of the
Sometimes
time.
you do. I'll give you that, girl.
Sometimes I get a good laugh.
Is this the part that you're talking about? It says the state must be required to disclose what it is not shown here. The state must
Mhm.
not be allowed. Okay, so that's not the state arguing that. That's the defense expert arguing that. The state must not be allowed to ambush Mr. Kohberger at trial by stating something that is not grounded in record. They're saying that the state, meaning the prosecution, shouldn't be allowed to do something. That's the defense's. It's in the defense's response.
Oh my God, I cannot wait for this trial. I'm gonna be
Yeah, I don't.
literally glued to my
So
fucking television.
Yeah,
it's
maybe so because it says in response to defense expert, the state of Idaho has filed motions aiming to limit and exclude yeah, so maybe you're right because it goes in a little bit more, and the ones it's pulling up, it is the defense. Those are the documents that are pulling up, not the states when I'm clicking on them.
yeah. So
So
the other
yeah, you
thing,
might be right, and I just read that wrong. So they're saying this is what, yeah.
that's what the states, they don't want, that's why they're trying to say that he shouldn't be allowed to testify. But when you were talking about the cast, so the information that so I'm assuming that everybody here knows this. I'm just going to repeat it just in case
Yeah,
people.
I looked it up too. Yeah, so
Well, not
you
that part.
can't
The
let
part
the
of the, yeah, the part of the cast. So like when you have an expert and they're testifying, they have to hand over the materials that they're going to rely on in order for their testimony. That has to be handed over and disclosed. That cannot be withheld. And within the information that he's handed over, that expert balance, he has handed over. I don't know if it's two. It could be two, but as far as I know, one main one that they talk about, a PowerPoint, and that PowerPoint is data that is based on cast data. That's what they are relying on for their entire analysis of where he was during that time.
Mhm.
So it's
Right.
basically the exact point that you're talking about, how the timing advanced is separate from the cast, but they're not using in that PowerPoint at all the data, like the actual AT&T time data, only the cast that they've created
Okay.
that relied on
Yeah.
5% of the actual AT&T time data to come to their cast data. They didn't even use all of the AT&T time data.
I don't know. Maybe they felt like they didn't need to use all of it. Maybe they felt like they didn't need to use all of it. I listen. I hear you. I
They
don't
won't
know.
tell us why though. That's the other part of it,
Right.
is he's not giving that analysis and an explanation as to why they did that. That's part of what the defense, they did that because if it's like a legit logical reason, like you're saying, like maybe they felt they didn't need it, whatever it is, then at least they can account for that so that they can prepare. But he
Right.
won't hand it over, and if you're not handing over, that rings issues for me, because it's okay, well then why aren't you handing it over? Like it, because this could be such a simple explanation, but because the fact that you are so like against handing this over indicates to me then that's not the case. And that's a problem. But that's why I was saying that that came back to the whole thing of why I think that they're being shady, really relies on heavily of what they're doing and how they're analyzing it. And I've said this in Christina's lives multiple times, and I've said it to Kirby. Kirby can attest to it. I do think that he played a part. I think that he's guilty, and I think that he should do time. But I think there's things that they have done that is leaving room for,
Him to get away with it.
yeah. And there's another thing that
Which is kind of what I have been, yeah,
there's another thing
in a way.
Yes, I don't know if anybody listened when I was talking on Christina's live about the difference in the location of the car in the PCA versus the surveillance videos. I don't know if anybody was there. I know Kirby, because I've explained it in like in whatever, but there is two totally different explanations and they don't match. The PCA has the car ending up in a completely different location when it's last seen in comparison to the surveillance videos. Two completely different locations. And not only that, but the information that's in the PCA as far as the car, they mislabel the road, then they label it the right way. There's a lot of assumptions that have to be made. They're going to have to explain for that, which that in and of itself to me creates reasonable doubt. Ignoring the IgG problem, ignoring the cell phone data, the difference in where the car's location is, to me, creates more than enough reasonable doubt for those jurors to go back there and have conflicting views, in my opinion.
So, in your
And
opinion, you know, okay, so I've kind of felt like, this is that he's guilty, and that he, I don't know if you, I don't think we follow each other, but a lot of my thoughts and speculations on just what we have right now is that, it's possible that his history, his education, and things like that, but it sounds like where you're coming from to, and now it makes me think, okay, maybe with the combination of both, I mean, both this, and I agree with Nikki with the state and um, the defense that both sides are questionable, to a point, and that in addition to mm, maybe both can be true. He's smart enough, maybe, and they messed up enough that he might get
well,
away with it.
I agree with that. I agree that with that exact statement of that. I think that he played that he. The only reason why I'm not saying guilty is because there's just too much that I don't know. So I guess
Sure,
that's just the lawyer in me.
sure.
But I do think that he played a part. Um, and I do think that there are things that the defense is doing that is shady. I do. I'm not going to say that they're not. But as far as if I'm looking at the degree of shady, in my opinion, of what the state is doing, it makes the shadiness of the defense not really look shady, if that makes sense. That's why I said before that,
Yeah,
like, the shadiness of the defense is expected. It's an expected level of shadiness, if that
it's their job. Yeah.
exactly. Whereas what the state is doing is egregious. Like, it's not something that you would expect traditionally in a case. But if you guys haven't looked at the difference within where that car is located, I would it's a very interesting thing to look at. And if anybody wants to just go look at it, it's the affidavit, page 6, and look at paragraph 3, and then go into the surveillance video footage and map out on a map where the car ends up, and you'll see it's in two completely different locations. And I was explaining in Christina's live that
Think I do remember. I think I was in there when y'all were talking about that.
yeah, that's going to be it. You couple that with then even just saying the words 95, you excluded 95%. I don't, like that. There's certain things that will stick with the jury, and I don't know. There's just a lot of yeah. But there's definitely, and the more that comes out, the more I'm like, well, hold on a second, because they've even admitted in some of the documents that I think it's in one of the ones where it's like make and model of the car, that there's a big gap where the cameras are, and there is no way for them to say definitively that the car that they were following from WSU is the car that was outside of the residence, because they can't, it's not a continuous footage. And they agreed with the defense on that and said, but that's an issue for the jury to decide.
Kirby, I wanted to
Yes.
come in and say something.
Go ahead.
Have you,
That's why I let you in. Go ahead.
have you guys heard
Hi.
of WDP? Lord
Yes.
Deadpool guy?
Yes. Yes.
Oh yeah.
He did a 6-hour live on TikTok the other night. He
Okay.
had
Yeah.
the people that knew the girls and the guys.
Okay.
The information that he got is unbelievable. He is going to probably get off because of touchable DNA. The car, like you brought up, there's too many that look like that. That's going to give enough reasonable doubt for 12 jurors, about the car.
Right.
There was something else. There was another guy that they looked in the beginning, but then they quit. And the parents are thinking that he could have possibly had something to do with it. From what they said on this live, possibly 2 people. And maybe Brian was the getaway driver, and that's why he kept going back and forth. Check it out. It's the full thing's on YouTube. It's awesome.
Yeah, I was in his live.
You were, so you've seen it then.
Yeah, we interact with him quite a bit.
I just wanted to bring it up because I always thought Brian was guilty.
Yeah. I still think I don't know if I'd say. I think they got their guy. I just hope that they
I hope they didn't screw everything up.
Yeah.
And that's my fear.
I don't know.
They get one time.
The I don't know, the one that I keep speaking to, it doesn't have a name on your thing, so I don't know.
Oh,
And me?
Peachy.
Oh yeah.
Peachy. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
It's Peach. Peachy or Peach. Yeah.
So what you're saying, I agree. I agree with everything that you're saying. And as far as like I said, I think that he played a part. I am just concerned with the way that they did their investigation, mostly because of the fact that they did it in a non-traditional way, right? That they used the IgG first and then tried to get information to fill the holes to prove the IgG rather than the other way. And because of that affidavit has significant holes in it.
There was a huge party.
Well, I mean, I always looked at the IgG as really just at best to get, and because he wasn't in CODIS, and that was to build a family tree, ancestry. It led them to, or maybe that's where the tip came in. I don't know. And I'm not at my computer right this second, but that's kind of what I always thought about the IgG and where that started. And, it was then a combination with some other things. But as far as the DNA, it's the family tree, and then it led them to the Kohbergers, and then they went to PA, and then they pulled from the trash, then they got the match, then they got the buckle that also matched like that.
Yeah, so what you're saying is correct. That's exactly what I'm saying. So the IgG was the tip. That's what they're saying is the tip.
Right.
So, but what I'm saying is exactly what you're saying, which is after they did that, that's when then they looked at the car, they looked at the cell phone pings and all those other things. Whereas, let's just say in a traditional case, right, where if the DNA didn't hit on CODIS, right, and they wouldn't then do an IgG because this is the first time they've done an IgG in this type of situation on a non-cold case, okay?
Hmm.
They then had to fill in the pieces after the fact, where normally they would do those pieces first, and it would be relatively like like I don't want to say factual, but it wouldn't have as many holes because they would be relying on that to get to the next piece, to get to the next piece, to get to the next piece. Where in this situation, which is clear to me based upon just a description alone of where the car was, where it ended up, and so on and so forth, they didn't have nearly, not even close to the amount of information that they got later on. And then that information doesn't match the information in the affidavit that they claim that they only relied on because they're not mentioning the IGG. If that makes any sense. Go in and look, like map it out, and you'll see what I'm talking about because it will create an issue for them because they're gonna either have to, they're gonna have to admit that one is wrong. One of them is wrong. Either the affidavit is factually incorrect in that instance, or the surveillance camera footage is factually incorrect. That's going to create a really big problem for them in front of that jury because they're going to then say, okay, well, this paragraph is factually incorrect and we made a grammatical error, right? But everything else trusts us in it. And then it's going to come back that's showing that, well, hold on a second, it's not completely factually correct, even the other stuff, because they only relied on 5% of, so it's like that affidavit's going to slowly get broken down and slowly be shown that it's not factually correct. And it's going to create a really big issue for them that they're going to have to jump through. Not because I don't think that he did it, but because the way that they did the investigation, they didn't cross their T's and dot their I's prior to the arrest, in my opinion. Because I think if they had all that information and then they wrote the affidavit, I think the affidavit would be foolproof. I think it would be a completely different case. But I think they rushed it in that aspect because they had the IGG.
Yeah.
It's my 9-year-old daughter.
Good taste.
If you guys look into it and really map it out, you will see what I'm saying, and I'm sure because you guys obviously enjoy these type of things, you'll be like, wait a second, this is weird. This is really weird, because it almost creates a situation where, well, not almost, it does. The state is basically saying with the information they're providing that there was 2 cars, because the parking of the car is on completely 2 different roads. So either there was 2 cars, or their affidavit is wrong, and they're gonna have to choose.
That's not how I interpret the information, but
I mean, I have a video of it breaking it completely down. I don't post anything like it. I mean, Kirby's seen it, but I could literally bring it to, like, I can show you it. Like, I promise you that's what I have. Like, you can even go through that, what I said, it's the affidavit. I believe I said page 10, I think, or page 6. It's the part that they talk about where the car was last seen, and you'll see that they say the car was last seen driving eastbound on Queens Road in the affidavit. In the surveillance video, it's Queen Road traveling north. So in the affidavit, the car is last seen in front of King, like the neighbor, not the actual crime scene, but the neighbor. I can't remember the number, but in the surveillance video footage, it's that side road in between the house and the Queen's apartment, like 2 completely different roads. I mean, they're both Queen Road, but they're traveling in two completely different directions, which then makes it two completely different roads of Queen Road. Because in the surveillance video footage, he goes eastbound on Queen, which is where the affidavit ends. Then he goes south. Then he goes west. And then the last time it's seen is him going north. And then the next time that the car is seen is driving past the neighbor's house, leaving the neighborhood, which is that part of it is the same in the affidavit.
I have a little bit of a speculation theory on that and why he was doing that. And I think that was just avoiding the DoorDash driver because it was about the same time.
Oh, yeah, 100%. But my issue is that you have the affidavit. If they read that, because it's going to get read in,
Mm-hmm.
all the defense has to do is this: have the person there because he's going to be there because they have to get that in as evidence, and ask
Right.
him to map out. Can you draw or take this car and map out where the car is last seen based on the affidavit and the affidavit alone. Leave that car there. Now show him the surveillance video footage, data, and information. Now can you map out the direction of the car and park where the car was last seen? Now you're going to have two different spots on the map. And one of those spots you relied on for the affidavit to show that he was there. And even though it's an error, right? It's a simple error. It's still factual information that's going to be an exhibit that is going to be brought back into the deliberation room with the jury.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to have to explain it, and they're going to have to tell the jury why they need to not rely on that and to exclude it in their analysis, because it's going to create a problem then for them as far as they created a situation where now there's two cars. Or the affidavit is wrong. And either way, that's not a good situation for them because they're going to have to admit their and either way, that's not a good situation for them because they're going to have to admit their error. And like I said before, there's going to be some jurors that are going to probably be like, okay, yeah, sure, this is a simple error. If you have one of those jurors that say, no, I don't like that, doesn't sit well with me, there goes your conviction. That is, in my opinion, other than the cell phone tower, the biggest issue, because it's going to be other than obviously the opening statement, some of the first information that the jury is going to hear, because they have to get that affidavit in as evidence. They're going to have that cop on the stand and so on and so forth. And then it's now, are they tainted for the whole rest of the trial? I don't know. That's a really big gamble, right? Because then I explained a situation where if they're taking notes and they explain to them, please exclude this. Now you have the affidavit in the jury deliberation room, right? You have the surveillance video footage, which has separate data that's different. And then you're going to have the notes of the jurors that is going to be saying something separate too, right? Because it's not, when I say something separate, what I mean is that it's a different conclusion they want you to take, right? They want you to exclude this, but then take this and rely on it for your conclusion on different pages of it, right? So now you have three different options. And if you put 12 people in the room and that's a hard thing to do. Like, that's not a situation that any attorney wants. As a trial attorney, you want to tell the story that you want them to, you are supposed to give them the story for them to follow from point A to point B, and that's it. They should be able to follow it. When it goes array, and now you have different documents inside their space, that could create three separate conclusions that they can rely on because it's in there. Now you have a problem because now they have to make their own independent decision and reasoning.
Okay, so I think we're going to go back to, I don't know if you were in here earlier, and Kirby, it's up to you, but somebody asked in the comments about his background. We were talking about his background, his history, and things like that. I don't know if you were in here from the beginning. We were just touching kind of on his education, all that stuff before, and making just assumptions. about him being the suspect. And, I mentioned before my thoughts on um, that and his education and maybe, using that to help him get away with this, that in combination with all of the other things. I think was it Shannon? I think that asked about that again. So he got his undergraduate studies at Northampton, an associate's degree in psychology. That was in 2018. The bachelor's and master's degree was in criminal justice and psychology, graduated from DeSales in 2020 and in 2022. So the bachelor's 2020, the master's 2022, and then the PhD studies started in August of 2022 at WSU. So as far as professional experience, and this is just stuff that I've pulled up on the internet, he worked as a security officer in the school district in Pennsylvania twice. Well, no, not twice. I think, hang on, from 2016 to 2021. Um, he wanted to be an Army Ranger. I found that in an article not long ago. He didn't do that in high school, but it was a secondary school. It was the Monroe Technical Institute. That's where he started that, but was removed from their program because of some issues with females had made um, complaints. And so they removed him from that. That's pretty much kind of all that I could really find until, of course, November of 2022 when he was arrested. And trial starts August 11th. I don't know, you guys want to touch back on that? I don't know. I just thinking about all these things. And again, we were talking about phones earlier. I had the first phone, and that he purchased the new phone 2 days later, that the first phone was in June of 2022 around the King Road residence is where it picked up. Then he purchased the new phone 2 days later. So we have the mask, which I don't necessarily think, in my opinion, that the mask is related. Initially, I think that is just convenience. Purchased that in January of 2022. I just think all this information is very interesting. Again, we can pipe in on this again if y'all want to. Anybody in the comments? Mask January 2022. I think that was convenience as far as mask January 2022. I think that was convenience as far as what he's being. Yes, Brat. 2 phones.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. 2 phones. Let me pull my stuff back up. What did I say? The first phone, I think the pings on the first phone, yeah, there were 2 phones. The first phone was January 21st of 2022, and then the new phone was purchased June 23rd, 2022, 2 days later. Okay. So I am really curious about that. Where is that first phone? Phone, you know, did he lose it? Did he I don't know. That's interesting information. Hang on a second. Let me go back. Yeah. So I don't know. So then you have March. We were talking earlier, I think before some of you came in here, there's more of you than there was earlier, but then you have the purchase in March of the K-bar, the sheath, the sharpener. And my thoughts, and I know Alyssa was here one of the last times we talked about it when I was, we were talking about all this, and a good point she brought up was, if he graduated from D cells in 2020, June of 2022, 2 months later is when he would have started in August of 2022, just 2 months at WSU across the country, he would have probably visited. And we know that he did. We know that he was there in June, right? But how often did he visit? Is that something
Yeah.
that we're going to find out? Is that something that we're going to see? That's, very, I am really interested and curious about that. So, is that stuff that we just haven't seen yet in all these releases? Is it something that I mean, I don't know, maybe not, but these are questions and the things that go through my mind when I think about this case. And, so January to March, mask to K bar, probably not, but just before March, did he visit? Maybe. Did he potentially visit March to June? Well, we know that he was there in June, but what about before June? So if he was, and y'all, and I do like to theorize, I do like to speculate. I try to base it off of the things that we know in the court documents. I do like to, my mind does go, and I just think about things like that. I mean, I think a lot of us like to theorize and speculate.
Yeah, based on facts.
Yeah, there were two phones, Diana, in June of 2022. There was an old phone. That's what picked up June 21st. 2 days later, June 23rd, is when the new phone was purchased. So he had one that pinged and picked up around the house, and then he activated the new one just a couple days later. So I don't know. Was he visiting? And when did he move to Pullman? So I don't think we have a Raleigh. I don't think we have a definite on that, and I might be wrong. I mean,
June.
was it June? Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't. I think actually, didn't we pull this up the other day? Hang on a second.
I think we did talk
Hang
about
on.
it
I think we did.
recently.
Hang on. Let me look it up.
Hey, boss. Heinzie,
Yeah, so he moved there in
happy birthday.
June, and he started his studies in August. So he moved there in June. I'm with Alyssa. I'm with Alyssa. He's had to have visited before June. I'd be shocked if he didn't. Across the country, a new school. How many times did he visit the campus? Did he check it out? Potentially go to Moscow and go to the Mad Greek, and that's where he saw the girls, and that's where this start. I mean, I don't know. I'm just talking. Just
That's okay.
talking.
Don't stop.
Anywho, y'all let me know what you think.
I'm with you on almost everything. Like you already know, me and you think alike.
I mean, I think this guy hit loose. Whatever happened, I think they have the right guy. I hope they can prove it, and I hope they can prove me wrong. And you know, I just I think he might get away with it. I
Quinn,
think
it's
it's very
lagging for
possible.
everybody.
Is
It's
it?
I'm sorry, Peach. It's
Uh-oh, it's okay.
it's TikTok. You have to go out and come back in and hope that it works.
I think they do too, Diana. I don't know. I
Yeah.
just decided I was going to start talking about it. My theories and things. I do try to, you know, I try to stay as close to, you know, what we know
Yeah,
and go from there.
the thing I'm torn on is I I'm curious to know,
I
was
know,
it
Lily.
the house that he was interested in, or I mean, like just the act of doing it, or did he pick particular people for a reason? That's
Yeah, I'm curious too, especially with some of those new documents that are where of the girls. That's very interesting to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too.
because there has to be a reason for it, right? Like there has to be. You're not just going to put in and get these search warrants for surveillance and records if you don't have good enough reason to do so. So to me that could be something that could be very telling, right? So like let's
yeah,
Hmm.
just say I can't remember for like 100% which ones it is, but let's just say it's fucking one of the what is it, like there's the grocery store one, there's the Costco one. Let's just say it's one of those and they see him walking around the store while these girls are shopping, okay, on more than one occasion, all right, and more than one store.
Hmm.
Then maybe he wasn't stalking the house, maybe he wasn't, like, I think in Idaho it's not even called, like, that kind of stuff's not even called stalking. It would be like he was surveillancing him
yeah.
or
I think isn't
surveillancing them.
Right. And don't they have to know for it to be
yeah,
I don't know
yeah. Like
that
stalking
for
in
it to be stalking,
Idaho.
don't they have to know they're being
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. In Idaho, it's not considered stalking unless you actually know that you're being stalked.
And that's,
Yeah.
yeah, so them walking
Right.
around the store or shopping or something and say he's in there, and the surveillance shows he's walking up and down, the next aisle, and coming around on the side when they're going to the next, and he's like watching them. He's not buying anything. He's not, purchasing nothing. Maybe that's why they want, records too, to see, okay, well, you were in there. We can see you walking around. Maybe he put stuff in the cart. Like, did you actually purchase it? He goes up to the counter. Maybe he doesn't. Things like that are just now coming out makes me very curious, because I'm like, why would you want records for all four girls and him for certain places? It just makes me think
Right,
that maybe he is there at the same time.
right.
I
Like
think
for
so
me,
too.
like to unalive somebody is a motive within itself. In my opinion, like you don't have to pick a person. Just the act of doing it is a motive. If you're that kind of a person, does
Right.
that make
Well, and
sense? I
it's
might not be
it's like
explaining it right.
it
So
does. It makes sense. And I watched an interview
Wait,
that
hold on.
BTK did.
Sorry to interrupt you, but like Lily's comment is on point, and that is very
What did she
true.
say? What did she say?
Um,
Let me go back.
I think it was the sister though. Um, the sister of Kaylee stated on an interview one time that she did call her sister saying about some creepy guy at a store. So maybe,
Oh yeah,
I
just
maybe.
was wondering.
maybe, it's him.
I was Yeah, and I was wondering if maybe they got those connections because they have all of those bank records for all of them, and they saw similar purchases at similar
Yeah.
times or something. Now they're trying to see if there's video
Especially
evidence.
like Joann's and stuff, like places like that you would be like, why are you going for anything there? Like, what does that have to do with anything?
You
Right.
rarely see a male in Joann's. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Which document was that? Hang on. Let me get them pulled up real quick.
For that listed all the financial records
Uh-huh.
requests.
Uh-huh. I might still
That's
have it
what
pulled up in one
evidence.
of my tabs.
It
Yeah,
was
it's from the
just
state. And
authentication of records. I know that's the name of it. I don't.
Yeah, I got it right here.
Okay.
Just had to get my tab. Hang on. Let's see.
Violet, that's correct too. The smoke shop guy did state that someone was following the girls too.
I mean, while we're talking about it right now, because that's a good point. And I was just using the Mad Greek as an example, but
Right.
what if it was something like that? And that's where he was like, I don't
Co,
know.
Lily, that's the store I was thinking of. Winco, yes.
I'm just trying to get to the financial record since we're talking about that, because which ones they're going to keep and which ones they're not,
So the
because they,
self authentication, it starts on page
I got it. I got
okay.
it. Um, so Sunset Mart, they're still using that. They're not using Target. Um, they don't need Ulta. Okay, they're still using Washington Trust Bank. They don't need Wells Fargo. Um, they don't need Winco, whatever that, however you pronounce that. Okay, so remember that Washington Trust Bank, they're still going to use that. They no longer need Walmart surveillance. They no longer need Ulta. They're using the chef store. They don't need Under Armour. This Q Bank, that's DM. They're not using that. Hang on. Actually, I need to go back down and see.
Yeah, Mary, you have to close the app and come back in. It's laggy.
Mm. It's been horrible for anybody that's been live. The only people it doesn't glitch for are the people that are in the box.
There's two different Sunset Marts, which I think we Hansi say that was a gas station.
There's one in Pullman and one in Moscow.
Yep. I'm working on getting a tripod set up here so I can turn the map on. 1 second.
That's
Well, it's
fine. So
about damn time.
they're not using Rite Aid, they're not using Ross, they're not using Petco.
Not me singing the Dora Explorer map song in my head right now.
They are using in that one.
Yeah, they're using the two gas stations. The Sunset Mart, there's two. Page 9, 41, and 42. Wait, 40 and 41. One is they're in two different locations. One's in Moscow, one is in Pullman, but they're using both of those. Um, that's what I was trying to figure out, which one of these that we can might lock down that they're looking at. The chef store, the US chef store is one that they're still using. The defendant does not have a 49 listed in his response. The state is keeping the same numbers as the defendant's response for consistency. Mm. Going back up to the top. PNC Bank, they're using those. Credit Union, Pennsylvania State Credit Union, they're using that. So PayPal, Venmo, financial records. It looks like they're probably going to try to use that. Okay, so Venmo, isn't that the one that you can like send messages on when you're sending? Is that one? Which one is the one that there was the rumors about the communication with the Venmo or something? I don't know why I thought of that, but looks like they're using that. Or just says they're maintained by a business. The state would seek admission of the financial records. And the state's in the process of obtaining sensitivity of the records. They're not using Joanne Fabrics. They're not using the Indian Mountain Lake surveillance and records, which was, I think we figured that was out. That was a house, right? Hit in Pennsylvania and PA. Not using Harbor Freight. They are using the Grub Truck video surveillance.
Oh.
They're using Forex DAX. That's crypto. I don't know why. I don't know why they're using that. Floyd's Cannabis Co.
Do you want to be big?
It don't matter. I'm just messing with it, that's all.
Okay, so Dick's Sporting Goods. Obviously, we know they're using that, right?
Yeah. Now on the map, I did not mark anything that was in Pennsylvania. I think the majority of us know that already, but for anybody in the comments, I did not put it in Pennsylvania just because it was such a big jump. Not that it didn't like hold any relevance or anything, but it was just kind of easier to leave her out. Not gonna lie.
We were talking, Nikki, earlier about the Costco. You brought that up too when we were talking about just the different, but
Yeah.
they are going to use the Costco, it looks like.
Oh.
The Corner Club, financial transaction receipts, the Costco surveillance, Corner Club surveillance, Cafe Arista surveillance, a bagel shop. What I was going to say earlier, though, when you so kindly cut me off, I'm just kidding, is that I watched an interview with BTK, Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, and he talked about how, because he would go years, he did go years without choosing a victim, but that's exactly what he said he would do. That he could be in a grocery store and he could go months, years, go into a grocery store or somewhere, see someone, and something would just click, and he would say, "That's my next person," and that's who he chose. No reason, rhyme, or anything. That's just he chose. So I'm like, okay, well, we know that. Oh, what's the teacher's name? Y'all help me. I can't remember off the top of my head. That wrote the book and did a lot of BTK stuff. That was a professor. What was her name? Thank you, Lily. Ramsland. It was Ramsland. So I don't know. I thought about that one thing, and I'm like, I mean, like, did he really, in his criminal studies and stuff, I'm sure that he really studied these other individuals, potentially, maybe. Did you just watch that? So you know it, you know what I'm talking about. It's been a long time since I've watched that, Lily, but it was really interesting to me that he just was like, I would just see him and pick. It was
Right,
crazy.
and that's the kind of like what I said before, like just to want to do that is a motive. It doesn't matter. Like you don't
Yeah.
have to be mad at the person. They didn't have to do anything to you. Just to
Hmm.
simply want to do that is a motive.
Lily wants to get on the backup and come up.
That's fine. She can.
I don't know.
Okay. Oh,
Um, I can try. I'm
Lily
not
got
sure if I
about
have that access.
Lily
Do I
got
have?
about 20 minutes because I'm starting to fall asleep.
That's
Kirby
okay.
can.
Can you
Oh,
make Hansi big, Kirby?
thank
Yeah.
you. Sorry, I
You know how to
typically
do
have
that?
everybody. Yay! Thank you. Okay.
I tried, but I couldn't expand myself. Sorry.
I think Babs wants to
I don't
come
have
up
super
too.
mom. Yeah, I don't have
Will you
super
let
mom
Babs up?
Sorry, I must have missed it. My apologies. Here we go.
Angie, how am I in a box? You hit
I
the
don't know.
button,
You were
babe.
requesting, and you said earlier you might want to come up, so I let you up. All right, I'll kick you
You
up.
said kick me out.
Happy freaking birthday, Hein.
I'm still counting that, Angie. Thank you, Ash.
Welcome. Rather than sending you something that TikTok gets half of, I'm sending it straight to your Cash App, boo.
Oh, you don't have to do that. Listen, I don't want to sound like I'm not appreciative
I'm sending you a
because
galaxy in your Cash App, but you get all $10 instead
stop.
of 5.
Thank you. I do appreciate that.
I know, I'm gonna do the same. I'm just gonna wait until her actual birthday.
Oh. I'm still counting it, Angie. Even if it was an accident, I'm just gonna tell my heart that you meant to pop up with me for like 2 seconds, and we're gonna call it a day. I know this wasn't really the topic that we were talking about, but I keep kind of zooming in on this part because I was able to go in after we found out about the 100 meters. Obviously, I wanted to add that to the map, so that's what this pink circle here is going to be. So that is, it's a little bit over 100 meters. I couldn't get it perfect. It was like 100.27 or something like that. So just keep that in mind. It's 0.27 off. But I just wanted to show exactly how close he would have to be to the house to qualify within 100 meters of the house. Because that's
That's
insane.
close.
Yeah, when you hear 100 meters, like it
It's like
sounds like a
300 feet.
lot.
How many feet is that? Like, it's not, how many feet is that? It's not much.
I believe it's like 328. I might be
Something like
wrong,
that. Yeah. That's
but
what I was gonna
it's,
say, around 300.
yeah.
Look at
Three-
Teresa, 328 foot. She's on
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. I knew it was over 300. I just couldn't remember exact. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. So this is over a little bit over 328 just because I tried and tried. I couldn't get it right on the dot. So I apologize for that. I'm not perfect, but it's still, thank you, Ash. I seen that come through. I appreciate it.
Okay. RL Shell is Lily. There she is.
Yep.
Hi.
Hi.
Me?
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, yeah, I got bananaed on the other one, so here I am.
Don't say.
Well, I was in the car because I just got live permissions on like my other account, and I was in the car with my husband playing around with like the features,
Oh
and he was
no, and it got
driving,
you.
so they got me. Yeah, but it's okay. It's just till tomorrow morning.
Oh, good.
But so yeah, that docu-series that I watched on BTK. Peach, that's what you were
Yes.
talking about, right?
I think so. It's been a while since I've seen it. It's been a few
Okay.
years since I put it out, right? It's an
Yeah,
older one,
it's been
isn't
a
it?
bit, yeah. But ransom
Yeah,
was like a
okay.
huge part of it, I guess. Like in just obviously
Yes.
relaying it because she was the one that actually communicated with Dennis Rader like over the years.
Right. Didn't she write a
Um,
book
she's written several. I think she's written like 68 books.
Cheese and
on
rice.
him
Yeah.
though? On him specifically.
Oh, on him, I think maybe two.
Okay.
So, but more specifically, like when I started it, they were kind of going into her background specifically, and the like somebody asked her, I guess off camera, what's the reason you got into this line of work? And she said, well, growing up in the 60s, I lived right down the street from where the co-ed murders were, where
Oh.
somebody killed, I think, 5 college kids in the 60s. And I was
Oh.
like, what?
What? That's crazy.
And I'm like trying to, this is also incredibly speculative, but I mean it fits if we're talking about the person who is being accused being the
Yes,
actual person who
it
did this.
does.
You know, your brain starts to make connections. And throughout the whole thing, they're just she's describing, you know, BTK's personality and how he also applied to be in law enforcement and was rejected before he started killing people. Sorry,
Yeah.
KILLING people. And he said that that was like a really like a contributing factor to all of that. And I was just like, oh my gosh, whoa, like they might be onto something here in a sense that like he probably looked up to her as a mentor, obviously, like
Mm-hmm.
who wouldn't, you know, given who she
Right.
is, and might
Right.
have thought like, I want this woman to study me. She probably shared with that class why she got into this line of work. I mean,
She
I would,
probably did.
and I would
Yeah.
have taken that as like, oh, like my mentor can study me. I was her student, so you know she would. Like, blah, blah, blah. She's written so many books. Why wouldn't she write a book about me? Like, again, this is my crazy brain just taking this and running with it. But I mean, it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, that had been right. I'll have to watch it again.
Yeah, I mean, it's
It's been
very
so
eerie.
long. Gosh, because
Um,
I just remember a few details. I don't remember all that. It's been a while since I watched it, but he's always been, I've been really interested in him specifically.
Yeah.
me too. Okay, and also, is your name Chell? Chell, sorry.
So my name is Rachel, but
Rachel. Okay, cool. Okay.
but
Okay.
my username has Lily in it because it's my nickname.
Oh, okay. So what do you want us to call you,
You can call
Lily
me
or
Rachel.
Rachel?
Rachel's fine.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. Okay. So, oh yeah, I remember you like a week ago in a different life.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other crazy thing is I listened to, do you ever listen to Surviving the Survivor podcast?
No, it's popped up for me a few times though.
Okay, well he had Dennis Rader's daughter on, and I forgot her name right now. But
Oh yeah, it's
that
escaping me.
episode, it was like over a year ago, but he did an episode with BTK's daughter,
Yeah.
and even she thinks that there was
Yes.
definitely inspiration for Brian Kohberger from
She's
her
very
dad.
vocal about it too. Yeah.
Yes, she is. And I this is a hill. This is one of my hills.
She
Like I
she was on
really
that Dateline
think,
episode too. Like they interviewed
yeah,
her briefly for the Idaho
yeah.
4 Dateline episode.
Gosh, it was so long ago. I need to rewatch all those things.
So the Dateline episode, I've been trying to find the actual like video episode for months now. They like don't have it on Hulu. They don't even have it on like um
Oh.
the main site. So but you can listen to the podcast
Is it
version.
on Peacock?
No, I looked.
No, I
They
don't
like
think. Are
Oh.
you talking
no,
about?
because they skip some episode. Like they'll have like season 32 episode 5 and then they'll skip to season 32 episode 9. It's very weird.
Where's my other shoe? Hmm.
I
But they
wonder
do
I
have
if
the
just feel
they're
podcast
like,
version of it, so you can at least listen to the episode. I mean, you can't see anything obviously, but
right. Okay. That's
They might
okay.
have
Thank you
it
for
on
telling me.
put it on the shelf for now until
yeah.
things really start up, and then people buy a subscription again or something.
Did you take
If
my
they do
shoe?
that one.
I did.
Kenzie, I'm
I
sorry. I
took
didn't
it.
mean to
Baby.
distract. Happy birthday, by the
Thank
way.
Oh,
you.
oh
I
my God.
appreciate you coming up here.
Of course.
So I know I upset some people. I was on my content account earlier, And I know it's not a popular thing, but something like, I don't think that Brian is innocent, but something about the way he's acted in different scenarios make me think that, especially the way he was acting with his father in the car. There's so many other things where they talk about, he had gloves on, or he was weird in this way or that way, or particular about certain pans being used, and having visual snow. But when he handed that officer over his ID card over to the officer, he put his full thumbprint on it. Like, he did not put it between his knuckles or like, oh, here, let me wipe it off, my pocket was dirty, or anything like that. He put his whole thumbprint on that smooth sheet of plastic and he handed it to the officer. And maybe it's a weird little thing, but it just, why would he be any other way? Like, why would he be so cautious with other things, And
Well, they don't need a thumbprint, right? Like,
and then I
Yeah.
also remember the stalker thing. I used to be super into this peachy, like, what's it been, like 2 years? I don't know. I
Yeah.
haven't been into it too much for like a year, but I was into it deep at the beginning. And the way things were being said, well, he's this student. You don't have to be a genius to be in the school, right? Like, you can just be good at what you're good at or what you're interested in, right? But it just didn't feel right to me that he did it that way, but he was so particular with everything else. And with him having the autoimmune problems, visual snow, it's caused excruciating migraines. I have what's it called, kaleidoscope. It's like a kaleidoscope when you have those migraines, and it's an aura migraine. For me, it's an aura migraine, but it could, his father driving him from Idaho to Pennsylvania. I get he's a germaphobe, whatever. Okay. But he could have taken a bunch of anxiety medicine and made it through the plane. He was driving eyes into the morning sunshine, 5 o'clock sunshine going straight into your eyes under the visor. I don't think I could do that. That's a lot. For 2 days with your father in the car. Like, that's a lot. So that always felt weird to me too. Like,
Yeah.
you know what, Babs? I think he did that because he wanted to take some potential evidence back to PA with him.
Maybe, yeah. Possible.
yeah. Yeah, Brian drove a lot of the route because when they were pulled
Yeah.
over twice, those were like 6 or 7 hours apart. And granted, they may have swapped out, but you're usually not going to swap out like that quickly, I guess. But he was doing a lot of driving directly into the sunlight with no sunglasses, and I was like,
That's a
you're
good.
giving me a migraine just thinking about that.
That's a good point. Hopefully, there's someone
That
from
is
the
a good
state.
point.
Hopefully, someone from the state's watching this right now.
And so this is where I'm like, I feel like Brian's father is somehow involved because it could have been planned out ahead of time, whatever excuse they wanted to use. But to me, it would be so much more excruciating pain to do that. And for him to be so protective of things that can cause flare-ups, like, the story about him getting upset about someone cooking meat in his vegan cookware.
Yeah, I remember hearing that too.
Yeah. And I mean, it's really common for people with autoimmune disorders to avoid animal protein because it can induce flare-ups.
Kind
That
of
can take you out
autoimmune.
for
Just
days.
I also am autoimmune. What autoimmune disorder does he have?
He has the visual snow, which is associated with some other disorders, but I mean, it in itself can be. I mean, some people consider it, but
Oh,
because
it can be
Mhm.
caused by
Yeah.
autoimmune.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it flares up the same kind of, your body kind of just wants to stop. But I think like there are a lot of details that came out at the beginning and then, kind of fell to the side. And like some of his running routes, Bethany could have thought she had a stalker because, some of those running apps will track your run, but also let you know who you've crossed paths with. But I don't know if anyone else had ever used it, but there was a dating app. I don't know if it's still out there. Hinge? No, not Hinge. It wasn't Coffee Meets Bagel either, but anyway, it was a dating app that would alert you to people you cross paths with, because like if you're someone that's in a big city or out in the country or whatever, you're like, oh hey, this is someone I can actually meet, not just someone that's within a 5-mile radius, right? So it could have been anything.
Yeah, lots of things for sure.
But that stalker thing always bothered me at the beginning because, I mean, we, as women, sometimes we are like, oh my gosh, I'm being so paranoid. But we've all been there where it's an ex that just thinks it was more than it was and keeps running into you, or you're seeing that happen to your friends. It's not uncommon at all. So it's scary, but we psych ourselves out because because most of the time things don't come of it. Serious things don't come of it. So it's blown off. But, oh, you're being crazy. He's not dangerous. So we start thinking, oh, I'm just paranoid in my own head. And she was probably thinking that too, like fighting both sides of the argument. No, I think someone's talking to me. Oh my gosh, shush. You're just being paranoid, So, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, sorry, I had to take my dog out real quick.
It's all right.
And
Looks like
then
I know
Heinzie wants
Kirby's
to
getting
show us something.
sleepy.
I
Who
am getting
does?
sleepy. But Heinzie wants to show us something, so I'm going to let
Okay.
her show us.
Okay.
Show it to
What
me,
you got?
Heinzie.
Wait, what am I showing? Sorry.
I don't know. You've got a map of something there.
Oh, I've had this up for a while. This is just the 100 meters, how close he would have been to be inside of the 100 meters to the house.
Oh, okay.
328 feet to be exact.
Yeah.
It's
This
100.
one's just a maybe a couple feet off because I couldn't get it right at 100.
Yeah.
So. Sorry, I ran to the bathroom and I didn't give warning. So if I missed something, I'm totally sorry.
That's
I
okay. No,
came
I
back
had to
and they're
take the
like,
dog
Isaac's
out.
going to show us something. I was like, wait, what?
I don't know. I
You're
kept seeing
saying my
people in the chat.
name.
Show us.
What did
You're
I
saying
miss?
my name.
That's okay. Did you see what I put in the chat?
Uh-uh.
No.
Somebody said, "Is there anything new?" I said, "Some docs dropped today, but I don't know that anyone, aka Heinzie, looked at them yet."
Oh, I did look at them. So we got, hold on.
There's not a lot of whole new info. It's just that new special
No.
prosecutor that was added,
Oh,
and
okay.
then he actually filed a motion because the defense didn't disclose
Yep.
2 psychological reports that were missing information to the state.
Which is interesting. That's this right here. It's there's really nothing
Yeah,
substantial, like she
right.
said. We got an order, a state's motion to seal Exhibit S1, order sealing S1, that supplemental request for discovery disclosure for the reports from the psych eval essentially, and then the new attorney that they added on. That's it.
Yeah,
Nothing
this
crazy.
the
I
report.
didn't see it until, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
Rachel.
Sorry, I'm lagging a little bit. Go ahead.
I didn't
Sorry.
see it until we were sitting on here, and I like refreshed the page because I was looking through documents. I was like, wait, are those new?
Red boxes.
So I was like, there was more yesterday. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
When I see those red boxes, I'm like, "Ooh."
Yeah.
Every time I send it to Heidi, she goes, "Oh God, I have a headache."
I don't
So,
remember
so
who.
this is the 100 meters, correct, around the house?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yes. It'll be just
Yeah.
a tiny bit smaller because this is technically 100 point, like I think 27 meters.
It's
I
very,
couldn't get it right
it's
on,
almost
but
spot on. Yeah,
it's almost
because
spot on.
it
Yeah.
looks almost identical to the one that I put in the video.
Thank you, Caitlin. Yeah, it's very, very close. It's
Yeah.
just I went into Google Maps Pro, which
Yeah.
was the only way that I could do it, and then I had to save a file and then add it into it was a kind of a nightmare. But we got it figured out, and I just, no matter what I did, it was like I would drop down to like 99.8, and then I would shoot up to like 100.6, and I got it to that 100.2, and I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this
Close
anymore.
enough.
Oh, it was very interesting, actually. Actually, I wonder if
Just
I
like
can
into a
power up
visual
my
perspective, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
you said it yourself too, like I'm a visual person.
Yeah,
And when you actually see it, like,
it's insane
it's
to think
insanity.
about.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That actually reminds me, I wonder if I can log into my iPad, if it would kick me out of here. So I
It
can
probably will.
I want to show that freaking video. Oh, wait. I have I don't know if that'll work. Let me just see. Hold on. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Someone explain to Angie what the circle is.
So there was, when they did their cast, I think it was part of the cast report, they pulled records for the 8458 number, Brian Kohberger's number, dating back to June of 2022. And they were able to sort through all of that data and come up with, on 23 separate occasions, his phone was picked up within a 100-meter radius of the house.
Right.
So within that circle, supposedly his phone appeared 23 different times from June till, I think they said, like the week before the unalivings.
Yeah, it was June 9th to November 7th.
6th or 7th, yeah.
I
You're
believe.
right.
Oops.
23 times.
Right. It's insane to think about because it's such a broad,
Right.
and like I counted it out, and if it was, I believe if it was like every Saturday or something, it was like 17 Saturdays, I believe. So like,
And always
was-
between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m.
right.
That's
So
so
essentially,
creepy.
it was at least more than once a week, or just to put it into perspective, at least once a week for quite some time there, which is just
Mhm.
What happened in June? Like, who did you see in June
right.
that like
That's
started
what
this?
I want to know. That's what I want to know. Like, where did he?
Yeah. Like, was he just looking for like an off-campus college dwelling that had mostly females because he knew there wouldn't be campus security, or was this, like
Right.
specifically to like somebody who lived there, or I mean, because he didn't just pull this house out of thin air.
No, well, here's what I think. I think that he chose Moscow because he's not going to do it right there where he's living, right? I
Yeah, you
mean,
don't where you eat. That was his mentality.
maybe the house. Maybe it was. I don't know. Maybe it was the house. Here's the thing. It's not right there. It's so close to campus, but it's not sorority fraternity, but it's very, very close.
Right.
It's a little bit, I don't know. I mean, kind of, I
And
don't want to say the perfect house, but I
maybe he
mean,
did look for cameras, like, and just missed.
maybe,
I mean, because to be honest, there's only three of them. Or, I'm sorry, four. So there's the Linda Lane
maybe.
dumpster, the Linda Lane apartment, 1112 King, and then the 451 Paradise. Those
Hmm.
are the only ones. I mean, it's very entirely possible that he was looking at all of those houses as part of his passes and going, okay, I don't see a Ring doorbell there. I don't see a camera there.
Don't see one here.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Well,
I
I
would.
was just gonna say, I wonder if oh, I heard someone say, and I did not fact check it, so don't quote me on this. But I did hear someone say that if you look up Moscow, Idaho, it's like one of the like safest places in the country or something. And do you think like that could be a reason to like target something where everyone feels safe? It would be like an easy target.
I think it's definitely a possibility for sure.
Oh,
Oh, Heinze wants to be big again.
Oh, of course she
poor
does.
Kirby. Are you not asleep yet? We're not putting you to sleep,
Not
are we?
yet. Not yet. It
Okay.
says Moscow has an extremely low
Go ahead.
crime rate of 0.9 per 1,000 and a
Oh,
property crime rate of 6.7 per 1,000
oh
residents.
my
Yeah, they've only
Lord.
had a very small handful of crimes before this over like 20, 30 years. I mean, very, very few.
I live in a suburb of Cincinnati. I wish we had those crime statistics.
Yeah. Rip, buddy.
Oh, you did it.
All right.
You're putting me on the spot here, girl, but it's
I
okay.
know. Is it okay?
No, it's totally fine. The first one's a little messy, but I mean, it got the point across, so I
Oh,
wasn't
she
really
has
too
some
worried
good
about it.
videos on her page.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
this one was absolutely insane. I was practically drooling, I'm not gonna lie.
I have been wanting to do this for like the past year and a half, but like I was never like, I'm not gonna get on TikTok. I'm not gonna make TikToks, whatever. But like after I was kind of starting to join lives on a like and seeing like some of the things that were coming out, it enraged me to the point where I was like, all right, I'm doing it. I don't care.
I'm doing
Right.
it.
I don't care if I have 2 followers. I'm doing it.
I'm glad you did.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks.
Hold on. I'm gonna put my phone case back on here because I have a pop socket on the back so I can hold my phone better
Ah,
before I
You're
play this.
fine.
But all right, there we go.
it might be a little hard to see, but like honestly, it took me so long. I could probably like if you like, what road is that? I could definitely tell you what it is.
Right. So y'all know I obsess over these maps and specifically that FBI surveillance like dump that we got. And I think she did an amazing job. You see the yellow line moving. It kind of shows she's mapping out exactly what was going on per like what they were saying.
The timestamps and the descriptions are all pulled right from the document.
Yep.
Wow. It's you.
Right. And like if I go on, oh no, it's blurry.
Heinze
It's
has
just
met
me
her
with my
match.
Apple Pen on my iPad just drawing yellow lines. My husband's like, "What are you doing?"
No, it was absolutely I literally wanted to drool. I'm not gonna lie, because I wanted to do it. I just didn't have the patience for it.
And that red dot is the house, obviously. And then like
Right.
the places where there's cameras are it's marked, but you can't see really the dumpster camera, paradise camera,
It's
etc.
really good.
Right.
But like see,
Wow.
Gray Hughes kind of got crappy with me because I he kind of did something similar. Obviously, he's a better program, but like I think he has one of these passes incorrect. Actually, two of them. And I like politely pointed it out, and he was like, "It's correct. Thanks for your concern, though." I was like, "Okay."
Wow.
I've heard a couple of people talk about it too.
I mean, I like how snarky he is sometimes, but like you can't, there's just no feedback. There's no like asking questions. It's just like, be quiet and let me talk sometimes. And I'm just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, I've heard of him. I haven't seen his stuff yet, though.
It's not bad. I mean, he has some great, great visuals, but yeah, it's just, it's a personality thing, I think.
Yeah, the first time I ever saw him was when he had claimed the having the 911 call, and you
Yeah,
know, people have the right to question that, obviously, you know what
exactly.
I mean?
Right. You want to know
And
where you're getting it from. Like,
yeah, just how he was handling that and like just completely
mhm.
just degrading people asking questions. I was like, yeah, I think I'm done here.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt with this whole thing. This is
Yeah.
actually the turn that I'm talking about. So he has him actually, do you see where there's like a loop at the bottom right?
This one?
Yes. So
Yep.
he has him, the document clearly says, it says he goes south on Ridge, which Walenta and Ridge kind of turn into one another. It's Ridge,
Yep.
Walenta, Ridge, but it's one road. And it says
Yeah.
he turned south on
This
Ridge
is
and made a
Walenta
turn
and Ridge.
east onto Paradise and then made an immediate U-turn.
Yeah,
So,
because they
yeah.
saw the headlights over on those cameras.
Exactly. They didn't see the whole car. So he has
I
him just going down that whole loop and around.
Yep.
And I was like, I mean, no offense, but like if he would have done that, they would have caught the back of his license plate and we would have been able to see it's a Pennsylvania plate. Like, and we
Yep.
didn't. So clearly that's not what he did.
I'm totally with you on that one because that's how I interpreted it too.
Right.
This road right here technically isn't Walenta, and
It's
I don't
Ridge.
know. Well, it's that one. Oops, I'm looking
Oh,
over
I'm sorry.
here.
You're right. It's like Cozy Side or like
Yeah.
something. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. It's like Ridge will into Ridge and then it turns into like Cozy Side or something. I don't
Yep.
know.
Yep.
And then
So
there's also Ridge on the other side where those apartments are by the
yeah,
A&W.
yeah. It's insane.
Yeah. But I just the passes that he did up and down Walenta instead of even going around and coming back, he just did immediate U-turns. I was like, "What is this?" And
Yep.
the he's looking through that little space there at the house. And I think it's on and I definitely think it's because he saw that DoorDasher pull in.
Mm-hmm. I do
Hmm.
too.
So this is where it just
Yeah, that's what I
stops.
think too.
Yeah.
Agree.
So those headlights shine. You see where it says 1127 right to the
Yep.
left of the, yeah, so the headlights are picked up on that camera. Then they disappear. So that means he turned and parked parallel to the house for 13 minutes,
Right.
then sped away. And I'm not sure where he went to after he left Walenta, so I didn't go further than that. So,
Yeah, they just kind of spec.
You cut off. Let's
yeah, you
see.
cut off.
She's muted.
Sorry, I meant to cut off my camera. Um, I don't think they know for sure. Like in the affidavit, they say, here, I actually have it up here. Hold on.
Conestoga Drive or something, I think is what they
Yeah.
said.
So they think that it came out right here.
Yeah, and then got on 95
Right.
South.
Yeah. So here's the house. They think that he came around here and went this way
And then got, yeah, and
and
because
then went
if you
back.
actually do the math, I think they said that like when those headlights are seen behind, like for the last time that he's by the house is at like, oh God, 4:21, almost even. So between 4:21 and then when they said his phone pinged, like he turned it back on south of Blaine,
Yeah.
I think it adds up to like 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes.
Which,
So it fits of like that being the car and then his
well,
phone picking up there.
here's Blaine.
Because
And
it
then if you
takes
go
that
up,
amount of time to get from that section of where his phone was to where the surveillance cameras picked up that car leaving.
Yeah, I'm right with you there.
Me
And
too.
that's what made me go, "Oh my gosh, do I really think 100% he did it?" Like I don't know, like that just put it into such a different perspective seeing that and then like cross-checking it with the documents. It's just like an
Right.
epiphany a little bit.
And all of, well, not, I shouldn't say all of them, but a lot of these ones that are in yellow, like these ones specifically,
Mhm.
there was limited surveillance with these during a time frame that wouldn't match up. Like for
Right.
instance, this one here is a coffee shop and it didn't start recording, I believed, I might be wrong, but it wasn't until like 5 or 6 a.m. And then like one of these two was only until like midnight.
Right, because
So
those
I don't know if the cameras just cut or what the heck was going on with
or their
those.
motion. I mean, I know our
Yeah,
ring
yeah.
camera is set to if somebody gets to a certain spot on our porch, it'll start recording. But
Huh? Yeah.
Right.
so I mean, who knows? But like Peach and I were talking about that earlier. Like if he cased around that 23 different times, you know he was probably looking at places that didn't have visible cameras.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, it's
I
reasonable to
think
speculate
so.
that,
Sure.
I guess I should
Absolutely.
say.
Yeah,
Oh
I
no,
think
where
so
did
too.
everybody go?
Well,
I think
the
it's getting
host is
late.
starting to fall asleep, so
Yeah.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
pretty late. Technically, for you guys, it is my birthday.
Yay!
Yeah.
Not
happy
for
Happy birthday.
birthday.
not for me yet, but for you
Yes, it
guys,
Eastern
is.
technically.
Standard.
Happy
So
birthday. We're glad you're back.
I just want to say, I am so thankful that you guys were like down to do this because I know it's been crazy lately with everything going on and like all of this stuff. So, like, coming together for me tonight and roping in and discussing this and stuff, it really does mean a lot. I really appreciate it. I had a blast. This was a great way to enter into my a birthday for sure.
Anything for you. And you got a tripod.
I know. Shut up,
And you may
Velma.
or may not have some other things on the way. I don't know.
Oh
Aw.
no, stop. You guys spoiled me enough.
Well, thank you. And thank you
No,
guys for kind
I
of welcoming me. And I know I'm a newbie, but I like to hear what everybody has to say. And I've
Well,
been
you're
meaning to do this.
welcome.
Huh?
Yeah.
listen, I
We're
liked you
glad you're
before I saw
here.
that
Oh,
map.
thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I
Yeah,
saw that map
same.
and I was like, my kind of people.
Yeah.
I can't, I'm really underplaying like just how freaking excited
Oh,
I was for that. You have no idea. I was like, no way. I went and I showed my husband and
I was
everything.
waiting for somebody to do it, like, and I thought maybe Gray was doing it, but then I was like, he's taking too long because he's perfecting everything, which I get. I mean, he has an actual car driving on the path, but like
Right.
it's so
No, I
broken
get
up
that.
and he can
Yeah.
only do a couple passes at a time. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get out my freaking Apple Pen and do it myself and screen record. It's gonna take forever, but but I
Right.
appreciate it. I really
Oh,
do.
it's
Like
great.
I'm like I said, I'm a
Yeah.
newbie, so I know I'm not,
I love your videos.
seasoned, but I
Yeah.
had a lot of thoughts I had to get out on this because I'm
No, well,
very
we're glad
close
you're
to it.
here.
Well, thank you. I
You're
appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah, for
welcome
sure.
anytime.
And I love all you guys. You guys are very nice and respectable, and it's just really nice to see that because a lot of these you don't. So,
Thank you. Yeah, it gets pretty crazy out there on the streets
oh
for
yeah.
sure. We try.
Hold on. How do you think he say the cameras at night in those 23 times? Do you mean like do we think that he was seen on cameras those 23 times? Because I definitely think he
I'm
was.
wondering that
Maybe
myself.
not on all of them, but I absolutely think he was. I think they're relying more on like the phone data. But I think it's possible because he was going at night, they might pull some of that footage and compare to the night of the unalivings.
That I would
Maybe, well,
love
Do you
and
think he was
yeah,
looking for them?
I mean, if they pinpointed him to a 100-meter radius 23 times
right.
between this time and this time, they can
Right.
reasonably
We already have a
deduce
pattern. Yeah,
exactly.
right.
So that might be another piece that like we just don't have yet from the state, like that, and whatever his online activity was, what they pulled from his VPN is probably going to be huge. Like,
And she clarified. She said looking for them. So do I think he was looking for them? Just given the time of night that it was, I don't think it was necessarily possible because like the one on 1112 alone was like a Ring camera, right? So that's going to be harder to distinguish, especially because it was one that's screwed into like the porch light. So I don't necessarily know that that was something he was looking for, just based on, I don't think he would be able to see them as well, right? Rather than if he was going during the day. He could have been, absolutely. I just, for it being dark out, I don't know that he would have been able to.
Yeah.
At least not all of
I
them.
wish there was one witness or at least one camera that could pick up, because Pennsylvania, I actually grew up in Pittsburgh. So Pennsylvania, you have the Pennsylvania state tags that you have to legally have displayed on your front windshield, the front left of your windshield. They're two massive tags. It's unmistakable when you see them. I'm like, how did nobody see those?
Thank you, Teeny.
And notice that's a Pennsylvania car right there.
Yeah.
Right. All right. I'm going to stop prolonging this because I know Kirby's tired.
She's ready to go to bed.
Well, thank you guys again. I'm going to hop down. Happy birthday again, Heinzie. Thank you
Thank
again
you
for
so
sharing my
much.
video. That was so sweet of you.
No, thank you for letting me. I am in love with it. In the least creepy way possible.
I don't find it creepy at all. We're all here for a reason, right?
Yeah.
But if I get the guts to go live with my new permissions, I'll welcome you guys with open arms.
Right, and I am not a host. I will never be a host, but I will
You're fine.
absolutely be
You're
a
doing a
guest.
wonderful job.
She should be. She
Kirby,
should.
thank you so much for letting
She
us
uses
completely
me.
bogart your live.
I do. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, please. I just offer the space.
You're
Yeah.
so sweet. Well, thanks again, guys. Good night. Much love to all
Thank
Good
of you.
night,
you.
everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
thanks everybody again for the gifts too.
Yes,
Happy
thank
birthday
you,
one more
everybody.
time.
Happy
Good night,
birthday.
everybody.
All right.
Love
Thanks,
y'all.
guys. Love you.